better than we do.
You just say it and sing whatever you want.
Let's let you lead us in the pledge, and then after that, you'll remain standing, and she'll sing the anthem. Aubriana Love, thank you. Just face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And sing by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we at the twilight's last, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag still there. Oh, saved us that star-spangled banner, for the land and the
That was wonderful. Thank you, Aubriana Love. I understand you are a finalist for the Moorhead Scholarship, so good luck there to you on that. And thanks again. You can come back anytime at St. Louis. I'm gonna turn things over to comments for the superintendent, Dr. Cox.
I don't know how to top that. Hey, what a talent. Thank you again for sharing your gift with us. We appreciate you and congratulations. We know you have great things in your future. Fingers crossed for the Moorhead. I think we have 2 students in Ashe County who are vying for that prestigious scholarship, and we're proud of you both. So thank you. So I think you guys can see we've put in all kinds of upcoming dates and announcements. Many of these have been in there for quite some time. We're excited about the things that are going on in our schools. The holidays are past us, and now we are embarking on our second semester. I know our high school is busy with start of new classes. I know our seniors are in their last semester of classes before they do some other great things. And I want to share with you a couple of the seniors that just graduated. They were super seniors last year, or excuse me, this school year at Ashe County Early College. I think you all will recall our early college students have the opportunity, if they choose to do a 5th year, if that's going to help them to get their associate degree, or whether it be in science or the arts. And we had 2 super seniors this year who in December were able to complete their Associate of Arts Emily Mahala, who I understand is not with us today, but Abby Garcia is. And so congratulations, Abby, on being able to complete your Associate of Arts degree from Wilkes Community College as a student at Ashe County Early College. So congratulations to you. Congratulations. I'm going to have you shake the hands of the board members. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Our cosmetology.
And so as I understand it, Ms. Williams, we have quite a few students who will be finishing their associate degree, and you finished a degree in cosmetology, is that correct?
I'm starting.
Okay, so you're starting in cosmetology now. Fantastic. So we're really proud of you. So now you have your associate degree. She is continuing in cosmetology, and I know you'll have a great future. So congratulations. And you have your family with you?
Yeah, my dad and my brother.
Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And look at that proud look there.
I know.
Yeah, that's, especially after COVID, it was a very hard decision for a lot of kids to stay that 5th year. So I'm really proud of the ones that are sticking it through and to even finish early. So, and to keep getting more schools, just getting cosmetology. So that's great.
So when we talk about success in the schools, we also have not only our fantastic students, and there are so many more of them, and hopefully we'll be highlighting some of these outstanding students each month. But we also have 2 of our adults to recognize. One, Miss Amy Walker, and I think you know that Amy helps keep us on track on these board meetings. She's our Director of Technology. She's always working behind the scenes to make things happen, and she is truly a gifted leader here in Ashe County. I don't know what I'll ever do without her. She cannot leave. She is truly invaluable to us here. But Amy Walker, and this doesn't happen, Amy Walker has been selected as the Northwest RESA Technology Director of the Year for the 2nd year in a row. Now we have 14 districts, right, in our region. Amy is the best 2 years in a row, so she will be vying for the state Technology Director of the Year title. I don't know who could do it better. We appreciate her, so thank you, Amy. And then we have another accolade here. And so this is on the other end. Amy has what, 30, we won't say how many years, years of experience in Ashe County. And Darby Rash is a kindergarten teacher, and she is the Ashe County Schools Beginning Teacher of the Year. And I think you guys have seen her before. We really appreciate her and her leadership in her classroom. It's full of energy. She has high expectations. The rigor in kindergarten is there, but kids just love being in her classroom. Darby has been selected as one of 27 finalists for the NCAT, so the North Carolina 2023 Empowered Beginning Teacher of the Year finalist. So she is one of 27 teachers. You know, there are 115 different LEAs plus some charters that all have the opportunity to have a Beginning Teacher of the Year honored in this way. And Darby is one of 27. So congratulations, Darby. We're proud of you. Siri is talking to me, because saying one sec. I also want to say that Darby is a part of this. She's going to get to participate in a week-long professional development at NCAT in Cullowhee. and they will interview her. She has already turned in a portfolio of her work. She's had recommendations that go into the selection of the North Carolina Beginning Teacher of the Year. She'll be interviewed during that week, and just like Charlene Horton last year, she'll get to participate. So this is the second year in a row that our beginning teacher has been a finalist. So we know we have great teachers here, and this is outside organization recognizing the wealth of expertise and the love that our teachers have for children. Congratulations again, Darby. Proud of you. So also success in the schools, and I shared with you back in November that we have a community collaborative surrounding early care and education. You all had given permission for us to pursue this further. We have our Ashe County schools. We have Representative Ray Pickett, who's been at the table. We have Appalachian State University, the Partnership for Ashe, Wilkes Community College. We've even had members of our chamber and business community who have come together to say that childcare is important to us here in Ashe County, and we know we have a deficit of early care. And I wanted to share with you, this is our condensed framework of what we're thinking about, what the community need is. It's what the pilot might look like, how much money that we would need to actually do it. And so I shared as soon as we had it, it's hot off the press, that we would share it with you all. And we will be seeking some grant funding so that we can hopefully put some more families back to work here in Ashe County. I think through this program, we figured out that we can have 42 students once it's all started. So 42 children, I should not say students, 42 children between 6 weeks and 4 years or 3 years, depending on where their birthday falls in this program. And hopefully that will allow some families here in Ashe County to go back to work. So this is the condensed brief summary of what that could look like once we get started. And so we are going to seek funding so our community can have some more childcare here. We're really excited about it. And I want to thank Terry Richardson, who's sitting here. Terry's been instrumental in helping us bridge between here and pre-K. And of course, not only is she our exceptional children's director, but she's resident expert in all things pre-K. And we're just very excited about this potential project and what it could mean for our families.
So we have any idea when this might be analyzed, or yes or no? Or
So it's really going to depend on funding. I know that, if we have some support for our General Assembly, they're back in session. So that could happen anytime this spring. I met with some potential grant funders recently who are considering some pretty big projects. And so once we get further along in those discussions, I think it'll go pretty quickly. I would love to be up and running sometime this fall. I think that we could do it with the right amount of funding, but the fact is we don't have that kind of funding. Ashe County Schools has the expertise, we have the space, we have the knowledge, we have a curriculum that we could carry out and move forward. And I think we have a plan that could be sustainable. However, we don't get funded for birth to 4 years old. We get funding for pre-K clear through our early college. And so this would be something that would need outside funding. And so that's what we're looking for. And I think we have the potential for that to happen. And with the collaboration that we have with the entities that I spoke of before, it's very, very doable with the right funding. So it's just a matter of time. So it's put together and it's waiting for somebody to say yes.
Great to hear.
And we're still pushing forward. We have, NCED just contacted me today, and wants to do an article, for statewide, because they're very excited about this opportunity. Dr. Cox and I are gonna be, scheduling time to meet with them to, have an article, out there. And we also, like I said, she's okay with legislation. They're pushing it. We were supposed to get this letter by the 16th of January. They told us we would probably go in March to be speaking in front of the legislation. So we're not taking no for an answer. We're knocking on every door, and it definitely is a big community effort. It's taken a lot of people at the table. Josh has been at the table. But this is a big thing for our community, for our children, and for our families. And we're not taking no for an answer. We're going to push until we get a yes.
We currently have, I think you guys have heard this statistic from us before. There are 400 unduplicated children on a waiting list here in Ashe County for childcare between the ages of 6 weeks and 4 years. And we know what a hardship that is on families. There's a survey out there from the Partnership of Ashe. 60% of the people that were surveyed said that they would seek full or part-time work if they had childcare for their children. And so we know that this is a need. It's a significant need here. If those families went back to work, think of the economic dollars that it would bring back into Ashe County. Think of the businesses that would suddenly have workers. Think of the tax dollars that would go back into our economy because we have people who are working. But not only that, think about the child who will now have quality care during the day and quality education during the day during this time. We know that we can fulfill that. And it's something that we are down to very few centers here in Ashe County, and families are either having to make do with what they have or not work, or they're going to other surrounding counties who might have more opportunities. And we think the opportunity can be here, and we want it to be here in Ashe County.
It's also going to provide some opportunities as a learning experience and education for people that want to go into early childhood education, which is twofold, not only educating those young, but also those others that are still younger than me, that are going into the job force.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For that.
I think that's a wonderful thing here. We know that we have people that just aren't trained to do that kind of work. They're not certified. They don't meet the criteria. Through this program, we can help to change it. And so not only can we have people who are working for Ashe County schools in this area, but then they can go and open their own center and expand that opportunity for other families. So. And maybe take some of those 400 unduplicated children off that list.
When there's over 500, they don't know, they're not even on the list,
That's right.
you know, but they're not on a waiting list. So it's another number.
That's it for me.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cox. We've got a public comment next. I don't have anybody under public comment. So I do see Miss Allison Kemp Sullivan back there. We've got a update on the new middle school.
Now Allison is coming. May I say something? We were fed the most wonderful meal tonight, and we appreciate the support staff being so nice to us and coming to make us feel like we were somebody tonight. And so we really appreciate that, and especially Bailey, that I know has a lot to do with those kinds of things. It made us feel really loved, and we appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Good evening. This is really just a recap from our December 15th meeting that we had with Clark Nixon, where they did the site study, looking at the site with the road infrastructure, the backdrop of Memphis Jefferson on the new site. They shared with us the infrastructure, the backdrop, the opportunity for Southern exposure, proximity to the high school. And they also talked about all the challenges with being on the mountain, such as the streams, the wetlands, the grade changes. So, having all that said, they presented us with building concepts that would work on a mountainside with the program adjacencies. So we looked at a two-story, if you recall, and a 3-story split level concept. And with all of the feedback that we got from the stakeholders, they are planning on coming back January 30th. And it's my understanding that's going to work in your schedules, that you have a meeting scheduled for the meeting. So they are looking to take all the ideas that they got from that meeting and coming back with a hybrid plan that is going to be something that they seem pretty excited about. We've talked to them once. We're going to be talking to them one more time, another meeting. So if that's going to work in your schedules, that's our goal. So that's the next step.
Very excited about seeing it.
I am too. So we're making steps. See if I have any questions.
Anybody have any questions? I will say I appreciated Clark Nixon and their, who would have thought that a building needs to be positioned a certain way for sunlight and wind, and I know that that's nothing
Lots to think about.
we've ever talked about before, so.
Yeah, they don't take a cookie cutter and stamp it out 20 times. We've seen that in Wilkes County. We don't want to do that. It's exciting. So I think we got a good team.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.
All right, well, next we've got some action items here under the agenda. First, we have is the minutes and the approval of the minutes that we have, the December 5th regular session minutes and the December 15th regular session minutes there. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Closed session minutes are all put in there.
Are they? Okay, I wasn't popping up on here. Okay, so open session and the closed session, both of these days. Do I have a motion to accept those all?
I make such a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carried. Next, we've got personnel on the agenda. Mr. Putnam, he's coming up.
Good evening, board members. You've got our personnel items for this evening. We're just seeking approval.
Do I have approval for the personnel agenda?
I make a motion, we approve the personnel agenda as it reads.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carried. I guess you're still staying up there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've got student teacher, MOUs and agreements.
Yes, we've got Western Governors University student teaching letter of agreement. Then the collaborative agreement, which really just spells out that they offer scholarship opportunities for employees such as TAs up to $2,500, paid $625 increments. And we've had some TAs take advantage of that. One of them now is currently in a teaching role, and another one's just about to enter their student teaching right now. Then we have NC State University teaching MOU. That's so that one of our current TAs can fulfill their student teaching obligations this spring. And then Greensboro College MOU. This is just a university who reached out to us because they have people who are interested in their program, but they want to make sure that they can do their student teaching with us. So nobody current, but I would suspect that that will be a future agreement. So we're just seeking approval. All these have been approved by Fred Johnson, our board attorney.
I have a few concerns about the two that are online. One again, the one for NC State's only for a year,
Yeah.
but one of those online ones is for 3 years and one is for 5.
Yeah.
And that bothers me.
I know, and I don't know why they do that. I know the one for NC State was written this way, I think, just to satisfy this one employee's request for student teaching. Some MOUs are 5-year cycles, like ASU normally does a 5-year cycle. Some do 3-year cycles. The university sets those. I think the one with Greensboro College, that came through a common MOU that a lot of districts and board attorneys got together with some state people and they put that one together. I'm not sure as to why the date range, but it does just kind of, it messes with us a little bit. If the term is the issue, I'm sure that we can amend the term and send it back to them and say, we're only good with 1 year or 2 years or whatever the board pleases.
Well, I know we had one with Stryker University last year, and my concern then was how were they going to supervise their student teachers?
Yeah.
And how did that go? What was done? Is this going to be a similar situation? Also, I noticed that we have to advertise for these people in order for them to give the $625.
Like if we want them to be able to receive the scholarship opportunities, then if we offer other tuition assistance programs, they want to be listed along with that. And us to put the opportunity to partner with Western Governors in front of our teachers. Yeah, and we've done that in the past. And then Martha works a little bit more with TA than I have in the past, but I typically oversee the MOUs. But yeah, so if we were going to offer other incentives to go to other universities, what they're asking essentially is that we would also advertise them alongside that. If we have career fairs that they would like a local career fair that we're putting on, they would like the courtesy of us inviting them to come to that, since they're open to provide scholarships for some of our employees.
Do we invite other universities to do that?
Normally, our career fairs are run through the CTE department here, but like our local career fairs, we only use those for classified positions because we participate in the regional career fairs or ASU career fairs, and that's where we typically get our certified staff. So there'd really be no reason for us to invite universities to our classified career fairs, because we're trying to fill positions like bus drivers, cafeteria workers, and stuff like that. When CTE puts on a career fair, they're normally doing that independent of the HR office. So I wouldn't think that that would apply, because that's coming from the high school, not from the school district.
I do want to share that there are a lot of districts that have a tough time filling their positions, including their licensed teacher positions. And so I'm sure that that is a generic thing in there, because other districts do have fairs to hire their current teachers and principals, assistant principals, things like that.
I think last year, didn't we? It was like Walling University or one of those online universities that we did a year long with. And I think that went well. I didn't have any complaints about that, but my main concern when we're doing student teaching like you is who's overseeing them, what's the workload going to be on our folks, and how are those people screened? Do they go through a criminal records check? What kind? Do we get background notifications and those kind of things? So that's why it's good to let Fred look through. Fred felt okay about the agreements. He read through and we talked through each one. They're all fairly generic, but I do agree with you. It'd be a lot easier if everybody just said 5 years or keep the agreement until amended by one party. And that's something, if you're uncomfortable with, we can always go back to them and say, we're not comfortable doing 3 years, but we'll do 1 year. And if they say no, then we'll say no.
Well, I think to begin with, if we've not had any experience with these folks and they're in Utah, that 1 year seems like a reasonable amount of time. And then if that's successful, then maybe the next MOU would be longer.
Are you talking about Western Governors?
Yeah, that was the one I think was in Utah.
Western Governors, we have
It's here.
we have a teacher who was placed this year, who was a TA previously in our district, who did get hers through Western Governors. And we've got another one doing our student teaching this semester pending.
I figured that's why that we were having a MOU.
Yeah. So normally I don't go out and pursue these agreements. It's just when there's a student who wants to do their teaching with us, that's when we open that up.
And just because we have an agreement here, this doesn't mean we have to accept all of their student teachers that come.
Correct.
You know, we like having student teachers and interns within our school district. You know, it helps become a recruiting pool, and then we know that they've been trained and that they've been trained under our experienced teachers, so that is a plus when they're here.
I hate to not allow someone to do their student teaching that has been doing it online. But at the same time, I think 5 years is if we're only going to give state a year at a time, and state is an accredited university in our state, I would hesitate to give an online school 5 years.
Yeah, I understand. I think that 1 year timeline, that 1 year timeline was written in by state. And I'm assuming it was written in just to satisfy for this one candidate. To my knowledge, since I've been here, we've had 2 people come to us through state for student teaching as opposed to, I don't know how many from ASU, probably 30 or 40. We normally get one off from UNC Charlotte and Long. From Western Governors, we've had 2 or 3, I think, in the past. But this year, and the board meeting of this year, I think we've had 4 or maybe 5 TAs who are currently or pursuing their student teaching. So that's a great pipeline to replenish and hire local people who want to advance. So I'm in favor for it. If you would like, we can amend some dates of contract and see what they say back to that. I can't imagine it, denying for that.
As long as we don't mess up any of our TAs that are that they are to be commended for going back and working at the same time and doing all the stuff you have to do
Sure.
to get licensure. But as long as we're not messing them up in some kind of way, but to me, 5 years seems like a very long time until we see how it works.
So, and I think Greensboro was 3 years, is that right? Greensboro College is,
I think so. I don't know. It seems to
should be in
me-
yellow. Greensboro was 5 years.
5, and the Western was 3.
Yeah, Western Governor was 3.
And I had another question. Is it, if I read it correctly, was the operating teachers to receive an honorarium from Western Governors?
Let's look back through that. Under the collaborative agreement, that'd be great if they do. That would sweeten it, wouldn't it?
Sure.
Yes, WGU does pay an honorarium. I don't know how much that is, but they do per teacher candidate. It's on page 2 of the WGU student teaching.
Yeah, pay an honorarium. It doesn't say the amount of. There's an incentive.
Mhm. Someone else's feelings on this?
Will the delay mess up any current folks or it will?
You'll mess them up?
Greensboro College, no, the other 2, if we did something on the yes. But we could, now changing a date range, it's not.
That's why I'm
That's,
no,
we're
I'm
just talking.
no.
We're just
If you guys tell me,
years.
you all tell me the number of years per term, and I'll write it in the contract and we'll sign it and send it over. And
We could approve the contracts with them change to a year versus whatever they say on it.
Good Lord.
So if we had a motion to that effect, to change them to one board approved it, then you just send it in.
Yes, sir.
No, okay, so we wouldn't really delay anything.
What if they say no?
I don't know. Will they say no?
I don't imagine they'll say no,
But if they did,
but if they did, then it would hold us up another month.
Until the 30th.
Yeah. Until the next one, yeah.
Can we do that with the understanding that if things go smoothly, that the next MOU, we would not have a problem with being longer?
Yeah, so you want to do a 1 year with Western Governors? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's what if we've not dealt with these folks before, I would like to keep it at 1 year. Until we
have one
see.
less.
Yeah, we dealt with them before.
we have a student.
We have a teacher currently who went for a teacher.
We had an MOU.
Yeah, this,
This
the
was,
old MOU's expired and this one.
That's been 5 years because it's before my time.
What in your experiences would be the most effective time range for these MOUs?
To me, until one party decides to opt out, so I don't have to keep bringing them up. I mean,
But
and that's how some of them are written. ASU's is 5 years. I would imagine Western Carolinas is 5 years. Now, the Greensboro College MOU, that was a collaborative MOU put together by a whole bunch of board attorneys and state people. And the whole goal was get away from these individual MOUs in the state, and everybody used the same one. So like a common MOU, and that's written for 3 years here. So, or I'm sorry, it was written for 5, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
that
it
one
was for
written for
5.
5. So I think it's standard to do 5 years or 3 years. The oddball to me was NC State's, the 1
which is the
year.
1 year.
But I think they wrote it that way just to satisfy for that one person. Because we don't really have a long-standing arrangement with NC State.
So maybe it's not an issue. I don't know. How's the rest of the board feel? I would hate to mess anyone up.
I say we leave it alone.
I was gonna say, regardless, we're still in control.
Yeah.
I mean, we determine who comes in and who doesn't.
Yeah, and if we want to opt out, I believe there's language in here where we can opt out. It's not a contract, it's an MOU. It's an understanding between two parties.
Let's just leave it alone. Make a motion.
So do I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we keep the student teaching MOUs and agreements as they're previously written, and as Mr. Putnam has presented to us.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, if you will, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank y'all.
I think we're switching gears here, getting from numbers. It's cold iron. I believe we're looking at our 2023-24 budget planning calendar already.
All right.
Good evening, board. We loaded the 23-24 budget calendar at the East Board. And that time to look that over and with this date, we need the approval of the budget calendar.
Anybody will have a motion to approve the budget calendar?
I make a motion, we approve the budget calendar as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from Ms. Colbert?
No, she's got a lot of work ahead of her.
That's always. All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, we'll let you get to work. And speaking of numbers, we've got an audit presentation. Oh, I'm used to seeing y'all on TV. I'm not used to having you in person.
Oh, well, I guess that's true.
Chairman, board members, Dr. Cox, I'm excited to be here tonight. I think last year we had some weather, and this is my first year as being partner on the job. So it was great to be able to be up here in Ashe County, and great to be up here and to see all of you guys in person. So thank you for having me this evening. It's crazy to think that as Ms. Fuller is working on next year's budget, we're going back to last year's for a minute. But you all have the audit presentations, and I'm just going to go through a couple of highlights of what we saw, and then if anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me as I'm going, or if you have any questions at the end or at any time. My contact information is within the audit. So looking at page 1, this is our independent auditors report. And this is the report where we give an opinion on the financial statements. And good news, we believe that the financial statements are free of any misstatements. We believe that they are correctly stated, which is the best opinion that an auditor can have on a set of financial statements. So congratulations on the work that went into it, both from finance and various other departments. We don't just audit the numbers. We look at, we work with EC, we work with Title I, we work with Child Nutrition. So it's a district collaborative achievement. On page 4 is the management discussion analysis. Ashe County Schools has always done a phenomenal job putting together very detailed management discussion and analysis. A lot more than any other district. You guys have a great MD&A to be able to read through and help readers really understand kind of what's going on within Ashe County. Page 15. Pages 15 and 16, I'm going to talk through those as you're turning in that direction. These two are the first statements in the book, so you might think that they are the most important statements, but these two statements are the statements that government entities would use to be able to take out debt. And since school boards can't take out debt, they're not the statements that I would recommend managing off of. Exhibit 3, starting on page 17, is the exhibit that I would recommend managing off of. Exhibits 3 and 4, pages 17 and 18. And in your general fund, the big question on the audit is, did we add money or take away money within the general fund? And you guys added about $40,000 to your general fund. I'm looking at page 18 right now. And your ending fund balance is just over $2.8 million. So relatively break even on your general fund, which is great given all of the changes with the costs of goods, the costs and changes in salaries. On your capital outlay fund, you increased your fund balance about $26,000, again, relatively close to break even, especially as you're talking about $1 million budget. So your fund balance and capital outlay is about $1.2 million. On page 20, we evaluate whether the actual expenditures within the funds exceed the budgets that you all approve. And pleased to announce that no expenditures exceeded the budgets that the board has approved, that the board approved for the 22 fiscal year. Next, looking at page 24 through 27 is the Child Nutrition Fund. Last year, as you know, the students received free meals regardless of having free and reduced lunch status and having to turn in paperwork. So because of that, as well as a higher reimbursement rate that the federal government provided for the meals, the Child Nutrition Department, especially in smaller counties, really was able to benefit and grow the cash that they had available during the last fiscal year. And we recommend managing the child nutrition off of as to how well it did in terms of growing cash or not, or losing cash. So cash is the main factor within the Child Nutrition Fund. So on page 26, you can see the Child Nutrition Fund increased cash by $545,000, which is excellent. There's about $1.4 million in cash within the Child Nutrition Program, which is going to be able to help continue the Child Nutrition Program being self-sufficient for hopefully a few more years beyond the COVID years. Page 28 starts to the notes to the financial statements. That's where we go through kind of a lot of accounting policies and how different things are handled from an accounting standpoint. So I'll let you read those and I will flip to page 56. Page 56 is a schedule of the cost of retirement that the school board pays in as a matching to the state retirement system. There are several different pieces that go into the retirement, but this is the pension piece of it. and the largest piece that keeps growing. So on this chart, if you look back to 2014, the matching percentage was 8.69%. In 2022, it was 16.38%. And as you look from 2018 to 2022, it's gone up almost 2% every year. And I just point this out because as the district has received all of this funding related to COVID, there's a lot of other costs that are going up. We know salaries are going up. We know the cost of general goods are going up, but keeping in mind that the pension's going up as well. And that's a challenge that you all have as a board in trying to figure out how to have all of these rising costs fit within your budget. And so just kind of wanted to point that out for you all to be aware of in the future as that cost is going up and what may have been able to be somewhat offset with the federal monies that you receive as those monies start to expire. That's a cost that likely will continue to grow. Speaking of federal money, you guys have spent approximately $3.2 million in this last year in federal money that was received kind of in relation to COVID and the money that the federal government infused into Ashe County schools to be able to help those students. And as you know, that is kind of starting to talk in the discussions, especially as you are looking at next year's budget, that money is starting to phase out and expire. Pages 65. We have 3 more reports here at the end, and page 65 is our report on internal control. And as we're doing the audit, we look at the control, whether the finance department has procedures in place to be able to catch errors, to be able to process items, to be able to identify anything that might come through that's incorrect. And as we evaluated those internal controls, we did not find anything that caused concern in terms of the processes and procedures and the documents that we looked at in regards to the internal controls within the finance department. On page 67, all of this huge, massive infusion of federal money that you all receive. Every year, we also look at whether the district has complied with all of the federal rules and regulations. Again, with this large infusion of federal dollars, it came with a lot of rules, as you know, a lot of stipulations, kind of some changing ones. But we are pleased to announce that we did not find any instances of non-compliance with the federal dollars. It's a big achievement given the extra dollars that compared to a traditional year.
Has it been that way everywhere?
It has not been that way everywhere. However, a lot of places, I think that boards have been very careful at trying to correctly spend the money, but it's not necessarily that way everywhere.
Amanda was there, she kept it on track.
Amanda, Julie, like it's a key number. We have a lot of federal dollars that come from.
They wouldn't give us a
lot of
penny.
places.
We didn't learn.
And it's a lot of new federal dollars, and everybody is kind of learning and figuring out. And I know the Department of Public Instruction has been trying to help guide that. At the same time, sometimes, unless your boots on the ground, you haven't thought of every scenario to be able to put out yay, nay, you know, and it has been a challenge trying to navigate those dollars. So, like I said, that's an achievement, especially this year specifically. And starting on page 70 is the same for state dollars. We did not find any issues of non-compliance with how state dollars were spent either. Do you all have any questions?
I do have one, but it pertains to this, but not to us.
Okay.
So, to my other question, are there other places that didn't fall within the regulations of those funds?
Mhm.
So if you were representing them and doing the same thing you just did for us, but there was discrepancies on how they did not meet the federal or state requirements of spending those funds, what? Did they do anything about it, or is it just too late?
So what would happen is within the audit report, we would put, there would be a finding and then we would have a questioned cost. And basically, so we would report and say, hey, this amount of dollars. Something seemed off that didn't, you know, we would say that it was non-compliant. Then that agency has the ability to come in and say, you have to pay this back, or this is what your action plan is going to be. So we're not the ones that make that decision. They make that decision. We just report and
You just
say,
make them aware of it.
we just make them aware of it. Exactly.
Okay, well, there was a lot of things flowing around and a lot of.
We don't want that to happen.
Thanks to them, and appreciative to everybody that kept that from happening, to pull back the reins, and say, wait, just.
And it had to be a team effort, like I said, and that's something as we look at all different departments and especially with this infusion of money, you know, sometimes once it gets to finance, it's been through 3 people, you know, to get approved, so.
I have a question about our fund balance.
Okay.
Say we had a major, something like a chiller go out. Okay, is our fund balance healthy enough to absorb a $500?
500,000.
$500,000?
Yeah.
Million, yeah.
You do have that amount in your fund balance. That's not to say that, you know, that would have to be a conversation that you had with the county, most likely if it were a chiller that would go out with the county's responsibility to be able to help with those capital needs, because it would depend on what else happened within the year. And one of the challenges with the school board is you have county funding, you have state funding, and so you don't necessarily set the rates. So there's not a specific goal or target of fund balance that you need to have to be able to maintain. So
how is that in comparison to other counties our size?
I would have to look at it and see. I can provide some information to Amanda with some of the information of what other counties of similar size have in their capital outlay.
One of the things that, especially with our aging buildings, we don't want to be in a place where we can't make the decision and go ahead and order, and we've got to wait a couple weeks or a month in order for the county to give us the money before you all can make the decision, because there would be 2 boards that would have to make that decision if we had to go ask for additional funds. And so we want to be able to be in control of that and make sure that our needs are taken care of right away. That's the purpose of balance.
Well, that's why I was asking those questions, to make sure that just in case.
Yeah. It's important to have it, just in case, both in the general fund and the capital outlay fund, to be able to have that fund balance.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Very nice report. Ladies,
Need a motion to approve the audit report?
I'll make the motion to approve the audit report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments?
I'd just like to commend again our financial team and the good job that they do and how they try to keep us straight, even though we try to spend the money. And we appreciate it.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you all. All right. Now let's talk about going on a trip. So we've got the Ashe County High School band field trips, I see. Our band director back there.
Hey there. I'll keep this brief because it was, there's 2 separate trip requests on the agenda. The first one is involving something relatively new, a volunteer-based honors band clinic at Mars Hill University that's set to take place on Friday, January 27th and Saturday, January 28th. Essentially how this works is band directors will nominate students who they feel would be a good fit for this clinic. They then travel to Mars Hill University, do a rehearsal on Friday afternoon, and then they rehearse Friday during the day, and then have a concert about 4:30 p.m. on Saturday, which would put the students returning relatively probably around 8 or 9 p.m. I nominated 8 students in Ashe County High School band, and all 8 were accepted. 4 young men, 4 young women. And I have already been able to find a hotel willing to keep us up with funds who can pay for that, and have secured a minibus to transport them down. I think it would be a great opportunity for those students, and especially since this is kind of a relatively new honor band, they could be kind of some founding participants of it. But that was the first request.
Okay, go ahead and give us a second one while you're at it.
Okay, so the second request is for the annual Northwest District to All District Band Clinic. So the Northwest District of North Carolina in a band context consists of about 17 counties and about 5 or so city schools, ranging from Avery County as far east as Winston, as far south as Iredell County. And that is a clinic that takes place. Sorry, I'm pulling up the information on my phone. My phone's slow. So there's no detailed itinerary yet, but there are dates okay. So the dates are Friday, February 17th, Saturday the 18th, and Sunday the 19th, with a check-in and registration on the morning of the 17th, rehearsals the rest of the day, then rehearsals all day Saturday the 18th, rehearsals the morning of the 19th, and a performance Sunday the 19th. And it's usually been held at App State, but this year it was voted on by the band directors to hold it at Lenore Ryan University. And we had the all district auditions this past Saturday at Davie County High School, and this morning the results came in. We had 3 students audition. 2 of them made it. We had 2 young ladies make it, both on flute. And I just want to say that there were about 150 flutes who auditioned. One of them was a sophomore, and then the other was a senior of ours. And the senior of ours who made it actually made first chair in the entire district, and we eligible to audition for all state band in March. I've not yet secured hotels for that because I didn't get the final results until this morning. But the parents have been notified, and assuming that it's approved, everything will be able to come together very quickly.
Are you receiving any funding to support the travel and overnight expenses?
So when it comes to the Mars Hill Honor Band, I was able to secure 2 hotel rooms for the 8, one for the 4 young men, one for the 4 young ladies, and it equated to about $33 per student. So if they cannot afford that, we have enough money in our band booster where we could help them out with that. And then the same goes for the all district band clinic. Seeing as how we had 2 young ladies make it, we could have them share a hotel room. And same thing, you know, if they have trouble with that, we certainly have funds in the booster account to help.
And for you?
I haven't thought that far yet. I'm being completely honest. I did go ahead and reserve a room for myself for Mars Hill. I did pay for that one, but I'm going to get secured a hotel room for myself in the district.
So the obvious question I guess I'm asking is, I hope that that we are paying for that.
I will talk to Mr. Farmer about that. Like I said, everything is
Still figured out.
Well,
I just know that there's a lot of
We'll figure
out of
that out,
pocket
yeah.
expense with band travel, band competitions, and especially for you. And I think that is something, as a board, we would like to support you.
especially you giving your own time. I mean,
Yes.
this is your time.
I'm really proud of what you're doing with the band program.
Thank you. It's not me, it's them. I'm fortunate to have great kids.
How many students do you have now in the band?
Symphonic band numbers have gone up a little bit. We have in the low 30s, and I was told today that a couple students are trying to change their class into symphonic band as well. So steel pan is, a little on the low side, which is anticipated this semester because of, low freshman numbers the past couple of years, but that's something we expect to go up after this year. History of rock, it's also pretty strong.
Marching band.
Marching band was good. We had a successful series.
No, I saw.
Oh, sorry.
But I'm just hoping the numbers will go up.
That's the plan. We currently have over 30 students in the 8th grade band, and the new middle school director and I are working very hard to build bridges between the programs to really get kids excited about doing band in high school.
Yeah, you've done an amazing job with all your accolades.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to approve both these trips for the band?
I so move that we approve both these trips.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. That looks like you're going on some trips.
Thanks so much.
The minivan.
In the minibus. In the minibus. Speaking of overnight, we've got some more overnight.
No, we're not staying here overnight.
Oh,
This will be quick. But we do have another overnight request. Our Coast Guard, I'm here on behalf of Miss Debbie Sturgill, her Coast Guard students, seeking permission to travel to Durham on Sunday, March 19 through Tuesday, March 21, to participate in the 9th annual Coast Guard Invitational. We have, I want to, when I put this in the packet, there was 5 students going in culinary, and Ms. Sturgill emailed me this morning, and after they had the new session of classes, we have 3 students that are requesting to participate in the management competition, where they're actually managing, working on the management side of the restaurant. So I believe all the details are in the packet. As far as the hotel, I am not sure. I apologize if you staying at the Hampton or the Holiday Inn, but I'll clarify that. But those were the 2 that was set aside there and will be located on the North Carolina Central Campus in Durham. Yes, we're using the minibus too.
good.
Like a minibus.
Do I have a motion to approve these overnight stays?
I'll make the motion that we approve this overnight trip.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Right, any other questions, comments?
This is the first time we've had somebody in management, and
I believe it's in the last 3 or 4 years, yes.
that's great.
Ms. Tim, you might be able to speak on that. When was the last time we had a position?
Probably the last time there was a ProStart management team was probably the 2nd year they competed, and I think this is their, say not,
Yes.
they've been competing the whole time. So it's the management portion is a very difficult part of it. They have to design a restaurant back of the house and in front of the house, and then they have to present like, you would be in a job fair situation. And there's other teams beside you presenting their restaurant, and you're presenting your restaurant, and it's like, you're presenting to people that would fund you. So they ask really hard questions. Usually they have a chef, judge, and, management people that have been in this business for years. It is through the National Restaurant Association. So it's a challenge, and it's exciting to see them stand up and do it. It's great.
We could use more restaurants here, so maybe they'll come back to that one.
And the students are excited about this. Thank you for the approval. They were actually there practicing, working this morning. They had community involvement in their shifts. So it's going to be great.
Give me just a second. All those in favor? Approved.
Now that we're approved,
Now,
we're still excited. Thank you.
thank you.
Their theme this year is Japanese cuisine.
Oh,
So they're
wow.
doing sushi and some other things. It's very, very nice.
We've got next wrestling tournament. I see Coach Hampton back there.
Oh, you're doing well.
We're going to be proactive and try to get permission for our wrestlers that have not qualified for regional state, but we know they will. To go on overnight trips. I'm not sure where the regional is being held at this time. We do know the state tournament will be at the Greensboro Coliseum. Normally they have to weigh in early on Friday morning, so they'll spend the night Friday night, or excuse me, Thursday night, hopefully Friday night. And compete again on Saturday, and then come home. Both of those events.
Currently, it says North Henderson High School.
I knew it was in the Henderson area. I didn't know exactly what it was.
Do I have a motion to approve the overnight trips here for the rest? Yes.
I make a motion, we approve the strips for the wrestling.
Do I have a second?
I
I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry.
I'm so glad we approved the last one because they did very, very well.
Yes, they did. That's a very prestigious tournament to get into.
Yeah.
And normally they try to pay people to come to that tournament because you have to be invited. But due to lack of funding this year, we did not receive any money, but it did not cost anything except for the travel, and that's taken care of. So our guys have done a great job wrestling this year. Got a big one tomorrow night at High Brighton, will probably determine the conference championship. So keep our fingers crossed and hope they keep rolling.
That last one we went to, I know Miss Jones and I were looking on the map trying to see where it was at and Grundy. I understand why they want to pay you to come. There's nothing there.
Yeah, we need the graduates to know what's running.
Uh,
To know that they, instead of building the town originally on the correct side of the river, they had to go back and move the town.
Do we have the money to help support these wrestlers?
Yes, athletics,
Yeah,
athletics. Basically.
Sure.
I might talk to the form of those since. See how the voter is.
There you go. I really appreciated y'all bringing this now, even though the details were not confirmed. We do trust you to make those details, Mr. Farmer, and know that you guys will do what's best for the kids. So we appreciate you bringing it. Go ahead and bringing it to us.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you so much. We didn't vote. Did I miss that one? Well, all those in favor, hold on, we're gonna vote on it. All right, you're good now. You're approved.
Good evening, board. I probably have the most exciting thing you're gonna see all night. And that is the records retention and disposition schedule for public schools. So it's not very exciting, but it is something the state says that we must adopt and have in place. We have been looking this over since the summer. We did have a small session and a retreat this summer with principals. Then we brought it back to a principals and directors meeting just a couple of months ago to look over as well. So there is a lot of information in this, a whole lot of information. And we will work to get information out to the different directors and to their departments as well as our teachers about the retention schedules and this information.
I thought the most interesting thing that I read in there, if we don't approve a schedule, then we have to have permission for every single disposition that we have. Is that correct?
It is. So, and I believe Amanda, you adopted yours probably in 2020, early 2021 for finance.
Oh. We have to follow up local government on the finance side of things. This one's specifically for public school record.
So I'd be happy to entertain any questions. It just more or less gives you the retention of different documents, and there's tons of different kinds of documents, from teacher-made documents to admin. They're all over the board of what types of documents are mentioned in here and what the retention schedule is for them.
I noticed on page 11 that major revisions are possible by local boards of education. Does the county staff recommend that we add anything to the general state guidelines at that point?
Not that we have discovered.
Okay.
In many cases, your local policy does trump what the state policy says. So I'm sure there are things we do differently. There are probably records, for example, we'll talk a little bit about it later, our EKG records, that could be something that there could be our own disposition on it.
Okay. I would think it would be better to, if you know of anything, to add it into when we're creating this than to have to go back and revise it later.
It's pretty conclusive, but I'm sure there is some, we could come across something.
I think as much as it's been looked at by different departments, I think we're gonna have to run into something and say, oh, before we'll notice it, because this is so comprehensive. It'll have to be an exception.
Do you have an expected date as to when everything will be finished for us to look at and approve? Or is this?
This is
the package? Okay.
yes.
And would you like for it to settlement before you approve it, or are you ready to entertain?
That's the wish of the, whatever the wish of the board is.
I think the state is so exacting on this thing that there's not a lot of other questions, and if there were, I noticed you better have that specialist on speed dial, because you have to ask them exactly in certain situations. So I can't imagine us having, except maybe for your records that are heart of the Husky that are not normally part of a school record anyway. We don't normally deal with those kinds of records in school, so I think I'm ready. I don't know about the rest of them.
Entertain a motion to approve the records and retention disposition schedule.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the Carolina Records Retention and Disposition Schedule.
Well, do I have a second?
Second,
Any other questions or comments?
I did not know that you had to have a way to dispose of a note. A sticky note. It was crazy. You have to.
And there's a retention schedule on it, depending on what the data that it's on.
It's on there. I know.
All those in favor? Raise your hand. Entertain and dispose.
Right, so I do have something a little more exciting for my second presentation. It is time to refresh our teacher devices at the high school email team. And we're currently on a 3-year refresh cycle for those devices, as well as our Board of Education devices are on that schedule as well. I would like your permission to seek a refresh and execute a PO for approximately 96 to 100 machines. The estimated cost will be somewhere around $97,000. This is up $5,000 from our last refresh. Now, I do not have, I just gave you a sample quote. I have not requested other quotes yet. So we could have see some, hopefully, a downward trend just a little bit. We do buy good equipment for our teachers. And unfortunately, everything is going up and it's taking longer for us to get it. So I am just requesting your permission to go ahead and execute a PO for a refresh devices for both our teachers and our Board of Education.
When did you say the last refresh was? Sorry.
So it would have been in, was it 19?
2019.
I think
Okay.
it was 19.
I mean, really, if you look at $5,000 over that time period compared to what things are changing within a matter of a month this past year, that's, you're looking at 1,000 units.
I will tell you that in the past years, I rarely went up a great deal on my refresh. Amanda would ask me budgeting. I was pretty well able to stay within our budgeting. But this is the first time I've had to take a increase on most of our prices. I think we will see that trend even when we look at our student devices refresh, which we'll be looking at some of those very soon too. So I'm afraid that's going to be we're on an upward trend on all student devices.
Can you remind me which fund that we use to pay
We
for
use
this?
local 15,
And okay, we've already
and
allowed.
it's already there and it's budgeted.
Do I hear approval to refresh the teacher devices?
I move that we approve the refresh of teacher devices.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Is there comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. You're good to go.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it for our updates or for our action items on the board agenda. We'll start next with updates and discussion items. The first kind of two that we have are following safety. So I know we'll have several folks for that one.
So we have Jerry and Jerry Baker, Amy Walker, and Jamie Little. And then we also have Sheriff Powell, who's here, who can answer any questions. He's a great partner for us when it comes to safety. We're very thankful for our sheriff's department and our ongoing partnership. But safety is split across our entire organization. So from the classroom level through to the district level, but we have 3 of our district directors that will be sharing.
Good afternoon, board. We wanted to come to you just as a yearly update on some of our school safety. As Dr. Cox mentioned, it does kind of fall into several categories. There are lots of things when we talk about school safety that come into play. And so my part looks very different than Mr. Baker's part with facilities and physical structure. And Ms. Walker, of course, is dealing with our cyber side. So this evening, we're just going to kind of give you a quick overview. And we're very happy to have our Sheriff's Department partners here with us too. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So we will. Okay, we will start. Everything that we do, our work here is centered around our mission statement, and the Ashe County Schools mission statement states, Ashe County Schools works collaboratively to improve the lives and provide all students with a safe, equitable, and enriching learning experience every day without exception. And so, of course, what we're going to look here is the equitable part and safe part. We want to make sure that you're being safe and providing our students with the same experience and the same safety measures in place. So as we know, it takes everyone working together to promote a safer environment for our students. We have to have students, parents, school staff, administration, everybody you see, all of our stakeholders. Our local board, our superintendent, our county commissioner, sheriff's office, emergency responders, the hospital, the health department, all of these members have a piece and a part in keeping our students safe and our staff safe. I've said it many times, anytime we have an opportunity for an SRO, we want to take that because at any point in any given day in Ashe County, where are there more people in one place? There are not. So we need to, I know that that's an expense and that's often talked about, but there's not another place in our county at any given moment on Tuesday at 2 o'clock that have more people in one place. So we want to keep that in mind as we speak. We'll let Mr. Baker speak.
I'm pretty loud. I don't have to be very close. So the other piece of that is Mr. Green on slide forward, looking at the shrimp or the school risk management plan, and this provides us a way to digitally or on the web provide information, pertinent information about a school, and talks about things such as floor plans, other things that might need to be shared in case a crisis happens. And moving on to the next slide, the other piece of that is the emergency side of that, which is called the SARA. So that information that we put into that system, they can pull that up on their own as they're responding to or have access to that to be able to see that information. In which in this case, one thing we really focused on this year was floor plans and having things updated so you can see room numbers and where certain shutoffs were, all that stuff that might be pertinent just in case they become a need. And after that, the other thing I just want to make mention to, even though we're sharing information with you today, things that are on that program within the school risk management side, it's not inclusive of everything, just as there's certain information that we don't want to put out there because it needs to stay private within our school. One more there, Mr. Pennington. A couple of things to make note to is things that we do regularly, and routine activities would be monthly fire drills, lockdown. We have a minimum at least one per semester. We can do more. Some schools choose to do that. Earthquake, tornado drills. The sheriff's office partners with us with the canines, monthly safety meetings, and of course, a monthly facility checklist. Additionally, I'm going to give you some examples of things that are in place with schools. So you got magnetic strips for classroom doors. And what this does, it enables you, it's kind of hard to tell by the picture, but it covers up the door strike so you can leave a door locked. And then if there was a need to lock the classroom up quickly, you just pull the magnet off and the door locks and to secure access. Also, the next slide shows you some things that was put into place a few years ago. What we did, the schools, when you first came to the main entrance, you had access to walk right down the hallway if you chose not to go into the main office. So these walls that were installed about 3 years ago, if I'm thinking correctly, maybe right at 3 years ago, that shut that access off. It forced folks that visit their schools to be able to go check in the office first. So those are examples of Westwood and Mountain View. If you slide over to the next slide, there's the Early Learning Center. And then the next slide would show you examples of Ashe County High School and Blue Ridge Elementary School.
All right, so one of the things that we have put in place, a lot in place, there are our security cameras. We have a lot of IP cameras that are accessible in all of our schools. In fact, Ms. Little and I were just talking today about security cameras and the need to replace some of our switches that are running those security cameras and finding, the adequate funding to do that. But as you can see, we have a plethora of cameras in our system. And one thing that we have done is we tried to look at safety and what areas in our schools were the most vulnerable, the entrances, the exits, the cafeterias, the gymnasiums. So we went through a few years ago, Mr. Baker and I, and we found funding from the county level to replace those, or to make sure they had good new IP cameras in those locations.
So moving on, this slide shows an example of what we call the buzz-in system. So if you come into the central office area down here into a school, and particularly you can hear the buzz when somebody's at the door. So what that enables to happen, there's an audio, so you can communicate by way of audio, and plus, once we can verify who's at the door, that enables the person at the desk, once they see who's there, communicate, they can unlock the door to allow somebody to come in. The next slide just shows another example of that through the Early Learning Center. So there again, you can see that Ms. Jerry can see who's at the door. The next slide.
I'll just talk real quickly. Our elementary schools and our middle school, I believe, do have, not middle school, okay, sorry, our 3 elementary schools and our early learning center do have the Identikit. It's just a visitor monitoring software, and it allows students, it works with our check-in and check-out system for students who are entering the building tardy or being checked out, but we changed it a few years ago so that they have to enter in a driver's license number. And so that is to help keep our students safe from someone that is not supposed to be picking that child up. And then if it were to be someone that, God forbid, we didn't know, or there was an alert, we do have a driver's license number then to be able to track that. And then obviously camera footage. But this is just to help us track our visitors. On my side of things, it's used very often to help track parties and early departures and that kind of thing.
And we also have silent alarms in all of our schools. So if there is something escalating in our office area that you need a direct line to call 911, there is a silent alarm in each of our buildings in that. So we can do that.
Another addition we put into place, and we're growing this, is the keyless entry, which I'm a big fan of this one. We do no longer have to cut keys if not need to be. We can provide fobs, and those fobs you can instantly provide access, or I could call it school and they could put a code in for a school building, a one-time use, and then take an out or a fob. If there's something, instead of trying to wait for a key to come back, you can immediately take it out of the system. So the other thing about that is we also have a code that's in there now. It's their emergency code, and particularly the sheriff's office and others are very aware of that code if need be, so they can instantly have access to any of our schools. Next slide, looking at our buses. Our buses are equipped with outside cameras. There's 2 on the exterior of the bus, and then the next slide shows you there's locations inside the bus of at least 3 cameras in there. Those provide information. Sometimes it's very pertinent. Also, there's a GPS that's on the bus. In addition to that, a few years back, which has been wonderful, with the push of a button, safety snow chain would drop down, so you no longer have to get off the bus to put chains on. That was a great addition.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about Say Something. So it's an anonymous reporting system that NCDPI has adopted statewide that is through the Sandy Hook Promise. But it's See Something, Say Something. And all of our students statewide in grades 6 through 12 are trained on this. It's an anonymous reporting app, or you can go through the website. It's for students to report, parents to report. If a teacher were to see somebody I mean, you would think if they see somebody walking through the parking lot, they're just gonna call the office to let them know. But anyway, it's even like a neighbor could do something like that. And it's to keep it anonymous. And I will say, what we do see with this a lot of times is our students are reaching out on behalf of their friends. And they don't have to do it and put their name on it. But what it does is it sends it to the Say Something Center. They kind of screen it and chat back and forth with the child or whoever it is that's reporting. And then it gets routed our way if it's serious. And so the school level will receive notification if it is something that is not super serious. And if it is fairly serious, the three of us and the school administrator and the school counselor would get that call, and that can come in the middle of the night. Our role, we work with it happens a lot more than we would like for it to happen. We work with the sheriff's office. Sometimes they are also in there. They're able to log into this. You get a notification on your phone, an email, a call if it's very important. And then you log in and you can see the communication between the reporter and the person on the Say Something side. And then we sometimes, if we feel like that it is very important, that we feel like there's a child's life in danger, then we work with dispatch. And as a school person, our job is to help provide address, phone number, parent information. We've had to do that before. We go out and make
Save lives.
absolutely. It's not happened a ton, but I do feel like it's happened, enough times that it was pretty vital at the time that it happened. And then we are able to, all school level folks can go in and see and add to. It's really good because we're all kind of, our automatic mode is only get in to Power School and get information to the folks that need it. And half the time our principals and counselors have already entered the information. I already talked to her this afternoon. I know what's going on. Let me come on. So it's really a good way for us to monitor, but I love that it is anonymous for our students. I think our kids always know a lot more about what's going on with their buddies than parents or other buddies sometimes or teachers. So it gives them a way to do that in a way that's going to keep people safe.
So the next one, it talks about go back one for me, Earl.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. We have life safety that come through. I would say it would be an odd day for us not to get a Say Something. I know the school administrators get them much more than we do because the ones that are routed to the district level are a little more serious. But you get them, it has a link, you can log in to see, what's being said. So the different distinctions are there. Things that would be routed our way would be, of course, the life safety ones. But other notification would be for drugs, bullying, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, depression. So it's things that our kids are really dealing with, and hopefully they're able to talk to someone about it.
All right, so another tool that we utilize, a tool that we actually subscribe to, is called Gaggle. And Gaggle is a piece on our network that monitors our students. It monitors their Google accounts, their chat, their docs, their sheets, all those kind of things. The one thing that it also monitors is that we get a lot of things on is bad language, when they're inappropriate things they might say to each other, sexual content, inappropriate pictures they might send each other, that kind of thing. So we're able to discuss these things with kids when we see them, or actually our administrators are able to discuss those things and have a discussion with them and let them know the appropriate way to use our network, and as well as why those aren't good decisions that they're making. We also have, go ahead. Okay, we're going to talk about cybersecurity. Back up one. Okay, so we have several things in place to hopefully secure our network as well as our students. We do have a robust filter in place that keeps our students away from inappropriate websites. We use DNS filtering to block malicious websites as well, to try to keep those folks from being in contact with our students or our faculty members. We do email, Barracuda email filtering. I know all of you see those Barracuda messages come through, and you probably should check those to make sure that you don't receive an email, and that sometimes it gets a little ambitious when it blocks, and a lot of times that's because of the number of emails somebody might be sending you. For example, DPI may be
if it's a huge email they're sending out, sometimes our Barracuda filter will block it thinking it's spam because of the sheer volume of the message. A new thing that we've just started using this year is Run Zero. It's a network asset tracker. So if we have something rogue out there on our network, somebody's plugged a USB drive in, somebody's plugged a wireless camera in somewhere, we can identify and know that those assets are out there and we can remove them. We run a Cisco and getting ready to move to a Palo Alto firewall, which monitors all of our inbound and outbound network traffic and hopefully blocks anything bad. We set up some pretty strict rules on our firewall. They'll tell you I'm pretty tough when it comes to our network. I really do try to make sure we make good decisions and that we are not allowing, hopefully, anything bad to come in. One of the things that we have implemented last year and this year is Know Before, and it's a cybersecurity training for our teachers. It talks about phishing, lots of different things, but we do two educational trainings a year. They're online. They don't take a lot of time, but we also do some phishing exercises. And it's so neat. Our teachers have done and staff have done an amazing job because I'll get emails and text messages when one of goes out and it's like, okay, Amy, is this one of those tricky ones? You know, or if it asks for or I've even texted them before, hey, can I ask them a question and they'll email or text me back or email me back and say, was this a trick or is this a real one? You know? So it is something else we ask of our teachers, but I do think it's helping not only at school, but it's helping in their personal lives and their homes too. Our technology facilitators work with our students on cyber safety, cyber ethics, cyber bullying, and about keeping their digital footprint in good shape. You know, that's something you never outrun. Your digital footprint is going to stay with you forever. So we really try to work with kids on that. Very recently, we moved to Next Gen AV. That is the highest protection of antivirus. We have moved all of our folks over to multi-factor authentication, all of our staff and our teachers. We have not moved our students to MFA yet. We do have a password protection policy in place, and I will tell you that I hope next year we are looking at implementing a phrase password. So
it actually worked better once we got it to work.
Studies are saying that phrases are much easier for people to remember and they're harder for predators to get a hold of, to figure out. So be thinking of the phrase you want to use for your next password. We have greatly minimized our access to VPN as well as our admin access. As you know, in order for a predator to get in or a cyber threat to get in, they've got to be able to go somewhere. So without admin privileges, it's hard for them to go anywhere. They can't download anything on your machine without us putting in an admin password. So I think that's been a very good move for us. Also, we have participated in 2 network assessments in 20 and 21, and one from the CNC, one from the NC Strike Team. We will probably look at one from the National Guard. If anything's out there and it's wrong and we're not doing it right, we want to know so we can clear it up.
All right, so another thing that we have been putting into place is more locally is our parking lot lighting. Those facilities that we own the lights, we switched them over to LED, which is brighten it up, particularly if you went by Westwood in the morning. You can tell that, and also the outside the building, the lights around the outside the building. Not only did that really improve the safety piece, being able to see, but also save us money. And Miss Amanda never complains with me when I try to save some money. Looking at the next slide, every month, building administrator and custodial walks through. There's approximately 100 points that they'll go through looking into the building. That includes playgrounds, just numerous things through there that they document. They submit that to me every month. Along with it, there's a work order for improvement. But that's just a way of tracking where we are and what might need to be done in the future. Looking at the next slide, this is standard response protocol that we have been adjusting and putting into place this year. As you can see, those right now, they're hold. which is in your room area, clear the halls. There is secure, which is get inside, lock the outside doors, resume as normal. Lockdown, which is as it describes, you would come in, lights out, out of sight. Evacuate, depending on the situation, where two would be followed up within that, and then shelter would be depending on the situation, what might be to happen during that time.
We are extremely fortunate to have such a great partnership with our sheriff's office. Long before SROs were a huge national topic, Ashe County was kind of ahead of that. And so we're very, very fortunate to have, how many do we have at the moment, Dr. Mr. Blanco?
Oh, we have 5.
Yeah, very good. So, Officer Blanco is our head SRO who works at our Ashe County High School. He also helps cover the early learning or the early college at this time. And we are very fortunate to have, we'll talk about that in a minute, a new grant. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But our officers are a very big part of our school community. I mean, the kids trust them. We want that to be a friendly face that they feel comfortable going to. And a lot of times when we get into safety situations where we're dealing with a safety assessment of threat, these officers help us handle these things and are a good support system for us with resources. Mr. Baker actually has some regular meetings, monthly safety meetings, and we have Sheriff Howe and Deputy Howe and Officer Blanco and any other SRO there that can help talk about what they're seeing, what's kind of coming from the law enforcement side. We want to make sure we're talking about those things and how that impacts school safety as well. So those regular meetings are happening about once a month. And then we also discuss the things Mr. Baker's talked about, like young wheels and those plans and floor plans, just make sure everybody's still communicating openly about what's going on. So if you have anything to add. Anything to add there?
Hopefully, anyone wants to have questions.
And I would like to say, whether they were here or not, I just always appreciate if I ever have a phone call, ever have a question, ever have a need, I can place that call, and within minutes, if they don't answer, I'm getting a call back and offering assistance. I really appreciate that relationship there also.
I didn't get the nod. I was waiting for the nod. I got the look. I didn't get the nod.
All right, so some other safety supports that are in place. For the last 2 years, we've worked to talk and to find out and gather data on our students with panorama student surveys. And that's just to talk about how they feel at school, and then to look at their SEL components, meaning do our students feel like they have a safe person in the building to talk to? How do they feel if they're challenged with something? Do they persevere through that? Do they know have the skills to tackle something tough? And we're looking at those different things, and we have a teacher survey for our younger students that kind of gathers that. And we're just looking to see that we're growing those soft things as well as our academic things. And so that's been a really, really incredible tool that we've been able to utilize. We're really just now starting to get a lot of linear data. And so our MTSS teams are really looking at that. And we're trying to teach now our schools to really be able to get in there. So it's been a little bit of a long process, but I think we're finally getting to the good stuff. It has been very, very good. I think there's a lot of times we have a student who looks great on every front. Their attendance is good, their behavior is good, they're a good student, but then you get this result, and this child has a very hard time making friends or communicating with others. So that's the skill that child needs to be working on. We don't need a small group to work on reading and phonics. We need a group to work on how to communicate with each other effectively and help them feel like they belong. And those things really do impact the whole child. So this helps us see those parts that don't always look like typical data. We are very fortunate to have school-based psychological therapy in our schools to provide mental health services for students that need that. And then we have social emotional learning curriculum and groups that are helping to address our resilience and our skill development at all levels. So that's not just elementary. We really are moving that into middle and high in a lot of different ways. Our climb time, our Husky Hall, we have different groups of students who are meeting. And it just feels like camaraderie, and they become very comfortable. And so those pieces are growing, which causes the academic to come along as well. And then they like to be a school, which helps things a lot. So our mental health services that we have in our schools right now, we contract with Jody Province Counseling to provide therapy at all schools. Right now, we're providing mental health services for 3 counselors at each one of the elementary schools to go in for half a day to provide therapy for our elementary students at no cost to the families. We're utilizing some of our COVID mental health monies for that. Our middle school has the support of our Top Dog Clinic, and there's a full-time mental health counselor there. She stays full. We needed that for a long time. About 4 years ago, we were able to turn that position into full-time, and our health department helps provide that. It's at no cost to the schools. And then, of course, at the high school and early college, we have our Ask Center, Assessment Support and Counseling. We have a full-time therapy person there that is an Ashe County Schools employee, so we were kind of the first ones to do that. And we then received the mental health grant through the U.S. Department of Ed that's really helping to fund that program. We work closely with Daymark Mobile Crisis. These folks that are in our buildings are mental health counselors, but there are things they cannot do. And when it gets to the point when we cannot handle it, we know what we need to do, we call Daymark. They're going to come in and help us get medical care for that child, communicate with the families, communicate with the medical partners that can make those decisions. And again, all of these services are at no cost for our kids. Which one is this one? So the U.S. Department of Justice, we have 2 grants now. The first one, we are in year 3 of, I'm going to keep straight with all of that. So we have one that has worked on our threat assessment and safety processes. We have safety teams at each school. And when I say that, I'm not talking about building safety and cyber safety. I'm talking about, we have a student who is threatening to another student. They're very violent in their writing or their drawing. We need to look at that and see what's going on. And those teams at each school have gone through a series of trainings to help us address what needs to happen for the student next. And what really happens is, the goal is not that we're going to charge the student for threatening somebody else. The goal is, what do we need to put in place to help the student be successful? Do they need some mental health services and they're not getting them? Does the parent need to be aware that this is happening because they had no idea they were up till 2 a.m. playing Call of Duty? So it just helps us go through and manage these case by case. And so we have those teams at each building, and this grant has helped fund a person who is our safety and assessment response person. She helped develop the policy, the procedure, she's helped with the trainings, and then when there is a threat at the school, we wanted to be able to take that burden off administration, to be able to have to not be the one sitting down and doing some of that. So she's sort of a third party who helps to come in and do some of the dirty, so that then the administrator can add their part to it. So it's been very beneficial. The second one that we have, I don't know if that's on there, so I'm still talking. No, the second one is we've just received back in end of October. Yes. And we are really just getting rolling on it. It will walk hand in hand with the other one for threat assessment safety. It is a restorative justice grant. And so what we want to do is, we don't have in a small county all of those different types of resources for our kids. So if we have a student who is being constantly vandalizing something, we don't always, court might not be the right option for that student. We want them to figure out why that's not a good thing. We are taking that on a little bit through this new grant to help put those things in place so that we can help with the restorative side of that. And it will be a wraparound. So not, if you're destroying school property, then we get to work within the school to help fix those things and rectify it. And then the last one is our brand new safety grant. You guys have heard about this. This is the safety grant that came through the state. This one, in conjunction with Mr. Baker, we have looking on some different equipment that we will need, and it will fund 1 full-time SRO for the remainder of the school year. We're looking at getting weapons screening equipment that will work for the, and it's portable. He probably can add to that. We're going to install some more smoke and vape detectors where they are needed in different parts of the middle and high school. We wrote in for some 3M bulletproof film for those glass entrances, so that it's not going to be everywhere, but at least it can protect in the front of the building. And then some electronic remote door locks, some additional ones that we have found that we needed more of. You want to add to any of that?
No, just to, from the aspect of the bait detectors and the weapons screening, there's a meeting that we have Thursday that they're coming up and walking through the buildings as need be. As the baits, there's a number 2 and a number 3. I forget the letter of that. But they communicate, well, I know it's Halo, but there's something about 2 and 3, but it communicates with each other. And so it could save us money. They're gonna come and plan the location as we put those through. So been very helpful through state contract. And we've looked at the weapon screening and by our safety team who met, decided what they thought would be best. And so those are the ones we're pursuing. So we're excited about that.
Good evening, everyone. Hope y'all are doing well. Here tonight, because I know that the superintendent, Dr. Cox, and Jerry was going to present very informative safety information for the schools. I will tell you that there's a lot of questions that I would love as sheriff, but there's a downfall to answering questions because we educate the bad guys, the bad kids that do need help. We educate them a little bit. So the one thing I do want to reiterate is just like Jerry, Mr. Baker, superintendent, when they call us, myself and Danny, we try to call them back as quick as we don't get them on the phone. Schools are a priority. You know, I can tell you that right now we're down 2 positions in the sheriff's office. One is on patrol, one is an SRO position. You know, that's our 2 holes that we have right now. When we did go forward with the grant position, we were blessed enough to have full support of the commissioners. They didn't even think twice about it when we presented to them. Snapped our finger, we got what we needed, and we got the extra cost, got everything figured out, so that way it is a permanent position. My intention when we got that position in October was to fill it in May. I knew that I've got 2 that are going to retire. I'm going to have some succession within the sheriff's office, folks moving up. You know, if they wanted that position, they're going to wait till after the position's open and see if they can move up in the ranks a little bit. So, and with that, the Wilkes Community College class of law enforcement was very, very, very low last semester. And of course, those people have to be certified and trained before we can put them in the schools. We'd rather them be a little bit older than 21 and 22. We want to protect our kids, so we like the middle ages. We like to see 30-year-olds families apply. However, those are few and far between. So when we get to that point, we see them come through BLET, and this class is a much larger class. So that and a much larger class than we've had in probably the last 2 years. So it's definitely, you know, we've got 3 or 4 in there that actually will be SROs. Going through as our younger generation comes through, a lot of the class is 21 or 20 to 25. And then we have some 30 to 40, and of course, those are the people that we like to hire in schools. So our goal is to have that grant position filled by May. It may happen sooner, but that's been our goal the entire time. We have been very blessed for many years to have an SR in every school, and we have turnover about one every 2 years. It seems like, and maybe a little bit, a year and a half here and there. We have one decide to move on to better things or move to another county, you know, or win an election. We've never had that before. So now we're in a different, we've added one to our list. So the point of all that is a lot of the stuff, I know there was some talk about the difference of lockdowns and types of situations. We have that, Sergeant Blanco has typed all that out. He'll be glad to talk about it a little bit, but as we've talked about, our biggest thing is we would rather, if you get a compliment or mainly a complaint from somebody that lives close to you, or it's from the school, Mountain View, Blue Ridge, whatever school it may be, you've got access. If you don't already, I think I've talked to all of you on my cell phone before, so you should have it. But I know they all have it, so definitely call myself or Chief Al and ask us questions. But some of this stuff we just don't want to talk about in public. So I'd love to answer questions, but even today I may look at you and say, hey, I'll answer that question separately. That way we're not educating who might try to get access to that school. But the other thing I will tell you before I take questions, and he'll be glad to kind of talk a little bit about the 3 lockdowns. It's 3, right, that we have.
We've got 4 if we add them as a whole.
Okay, so, and he can talk about it a little bit. I'll let you come up and talk about it real quick. We're just not going to tell you in detail, but we have a very long written document that he has wrote on the difference of them. if y'all want to meet or call me, be glad to go over with you. And that'll give you a little bit more power and a little bit more verbiage to that person that's called you and said, hey, what's going on here? And then you can say, you know what, I talked to Sheriff Al, this is why they did what they did, and they're 100% sure they did it the correct way. Because so far, right now, just sitting back and thinking, you know, I try to think of things if I make a mistake and I think about it a week later, yeah. But if I think about it, I still remember 2 months later, I probably made the wrong decision, and I have to think about it a little bit more. So please call us, ask us questions. You know, even here, if it's inappropriate now, and I don't want to put out there, I'm very protective of our schools. But I will tell you, if we do have a school empty, we do have a rotation set where that school has been touched by a couple of officers during that day. And it may be for an hour and a half at a time, maybe for 2 stints of an hour. So they'll be cycling through depending on the time of day and making sure that we don't have a school open at all. But right now we just have one opening, and we're happy for that. And that's not counting the grant position, but you know, I have full intention to have that thing filled by May. That's about as quick. When I saw what was going to happen with 2 people retiring, I definitely that's one Hollywood issue because some people do want to hold. But I'll let him talk about lockdowns real quick, and then I'll take questions if you have any.
Well, I appreciate you having me. And like the sheriff said, I'm going to be something, I'm not quite as tall as the sheriff. I'm going to be somewhat limited in what I want to talk about in depth. And I believe Mr. Baker had a slide to it, but we basically got a hold, which is like the lightest threshold. If administration wants to figure something out, we can, the students, teachers hold in their room and clear the halls, just bring people in. It's not quite a lockdown. It's not traumatizing the kids. We're just going to figure out who's in the school, what the situation is, very light. Then we can go to secure. You get inside, you lock the outside doors. Okay, that's a little bit higher threshold. And then there's lockdown, which we all know. That's the traditional lockdown. Having secure and hold gives us something that's not quite a lockdown, especially at the elementary school levels. Going to a full lockdown, if there's no reason for it, is traumatizing, and we don't want to have to do that. Okay, and evacuate. There could become a time, whether it's a weather disaster or something else, where we need to evacuate. And finally, we have shelter, okay? But mostly we're talking about hold, secure, lock, and evacuate. Those are 4 different tools that we have to have the least amount of impact on our children. We go into a lockdown, obviously the high school kids are going to be texting back and forth and Snapchatting and whatever they do that I don't even know about yet. But for the elementary school kids, we need to be cognizant how they perceive what's going on. And I think we have those tools. I think the last time we had to go to a secure, it was quick, easy. I had 2 deputies there within 15 minutes. Mr. Baker was out there. We checked the scene. We determined there was no issue, and we were able to come out of it. And we knew the school was safe, and we were able to move on. So I appreciate having these new tools, so not everything's a lockdown. So thanks for having me. Did you have any questions about that, or?
Something I will tell you that we started early. We started every other month in 2018, having a meeting at every school in the county and getting our law enforcement there. And we do those every other month at a different school. They're always invited. Everybody's always invited. We get lots of participation from the principals. They come in, eat with us. Jerry comes to about every one of them. And I will tell you that everything that we brought up in those first 2 years, Jerry fixed, and Jerry fixed them like that. And I'm sure it was with the support of the board that was here, Superintendent Yates, Superintendent Cox. But our big thing were door issues, and those were solved in about 2 years on our end. And the key fob will solve the remainder of the issues that we have with those. And then maybe we could come up with the lasting portion to fix that. So we are very blessed. We had an issue with the safety and security with the high school, Early College, and the new campus or the new building there. We had meetings 2 or 3 years ago, and with the college, we got stumped, refused to cooperate, and I will be glad to tell you that I have solved that. We have access and we have the full support of Wilkes Community College. They have given us access to everything. So there is no longer a barrier between us and being remote, and that was solved 2 Thursdays ago. So for those of you that have connections down there that, I made one phone call to one person down there at the college, and within 24 hours, somebody was up here handing us keys to buildings so our officers could respond and help everybody. We're just going to be there a lot quicker than everybody else, so. But I really want to reiterate, all the principals should have myself and the chief's phone numbers. All of you all should have them, that way when you do get a complaint or concern, it may be true, may not be true, but that gives you access to call me and say, hey, what's this? And if I don't know the answer, I'll call and find out. May take me a little bit, but I'll call and find out. But if you do have any questions now, I would love to answer some questions if I can.
Well, I have heard that there might be a program that the sheriff's department can present to our faculties that cover stuff that we might not cover otherwise.
Right.
Is that true? Are you available for that?
So that's something we will create, because it depends on what y'all are teaching you're talking about the meetings with the teachers first year, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we would love to get involved with that. Of course, we don't want to extend what's already going to be a long day for them instruction wise. So in 30 minutes to an hour, we can probably get across. And the main thing is for us to get together with what you all want and then try to marry that, because obviously, we're law enforcement. We're going to be a little bit harder concerned mentally wise when we come into a situation. So we've got to make sure everybody's on board. And the superintendent does very well in us having conversations and us saying, hey, we're going to do this and thinking about the totality of everything that could happen and how it's going to impact the kids, even though we're there to get it back out. We're there to deal with the situation. But we've talked about it, and we would love to have whatever that needs to be in all the schools. And if we have a time issue where they're all meeting at the same time, we can create a video and have that take that direction. So it's really more of what you all want, and it also puts stuff down on paper so there's less confusion as well. Because we talked about some issues that are not imminent threat issues, but they are concerns with the teachers and students and how to do that. And we can create policies and MOUs to actually solve those issues. That way, something for everybody.
I think that would be great for folks to have those conversations and get that ready for next year.
I would also like to see a bit more support for our new teachers. I think that they may be the ones that are new teachers.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, yes, new teachers.
Yeah.
I think they are the ones that know the least amount about procedure and policy. And so we could maybe marry that up with some of our new teacher support. I'd love to see that.
And that's also something we did a video with the county. We are getting ready to be in an era where we will in the next month have several rapid deployment instructors certified with the Ashe County Sheriff's Office. So there's no more calling and trying to schedule things. So starting this summer, there will be similar exercises that come all summer, and then there'll be one Christmas as well. So it'll be never-ending training going out. And what that can play into is we can create a training video. After we get together and get what we need for our schools here in Ashe County, we can create a 20-minute video that covers everything for those new teachers. And that can be something you can implement, through some kind of program, or just have them watch it and sign off on it. That way they kind of know the baseline, then they get fed in person in August before school starts and kind of solve both of those at the same time. So, and then hopefully once the rapid deployment will happen at every school, and then that last one will be a full-size exercise. And that's when we will invite whoever will come. They can be role players, teachers are great role players because they see the other side of it too. And you all will be invited as well. So we've been working on it for a while. COVID hit and all the training went away. And now all the rapid deployment and school scenarios, school shooting scenarios have all changed, and they're actually making it mandatory, even if you're an instructor in the past, be required to go through the new program. So there's not going to be any old mentalities that were trained 20 years ago trying to teach the old stuff anymore. So they're fortunate on all them. But we'll have 2 of those, and then hopefully we'll have 2 more as well. And any ideas that you have, call me and email me just like that. That's something that I didn't think about. That would be great for those new teachers to come in. So we just got to watch what we educate to the students and make sure that they're ready to do what we need them to do if that happens.
Yeah, I'd like to see that our substitute teachers are also included.
I heard that from somebody in the crowd too.
Yeah, because you never know which set of teachers you might have at any given day.
One of them.
Yes, yeah, for sure. But, it would be good for them to be aboard too, because they could be in the building
Yeah.
if there's a threat.
I think making a video for that reason, for the new and subs that come in throughout the year, they're required to watch, and then we'll feed everybody that information at the first in August every year. And even have a refresh, because it'll change every year.
What do we need to do to make that happen, folks?
To make what happen?
This training every year.
I think we can do that.
That's easy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think we can make it happen. The biggest thing is making sure that y'all know what you know on your end, for Ashe County schools, and us making sure that we are vetting that the kids are gonna be the safest that they can be, and the teacher on our end, and kind of being real smooth.
I think because the training for you all is updated, as soon as that's in place, that's the time for us.
2 weeks,
to be sure.
they'll be fully trained to be instructors. So we've all been through the classes. But in 2 weeks, we'll have instructors here, and I've asked them to bring back all the information so that way we can build into it and make this powerful. And something we'll be able to turn, and it may change how some of this works. So it may, naturally that's what's gonna happen, and it needs to be updated every year, all of it.
I just want to reiterate something you said there, it was kind of on the other side, you said we're welcome to call. On that, parents are welcome to call administrators, the superintendent's office, the Board of Ed's office, if they have any questions.
I met with somebody on Friday.
So, sometimes Facebook or social media is not the best place to post concerns about, oh, is such and such not going to be there this next fall? That's why we have phones and folks to answer those questions for you. It just causes a lot of unneeded angst, as I say, because if somebody posts something on social media like that. So, just keep in mind, these folks are always available for anybody to call, not just us, the public and parents in general.
And the best part is we have an SRO there, where the parents can walk in to any school typically, like I said, right now, we've got one short, but they can walk in there and talk to them this and discuss it with them and ask, hey, what's this concern? If they don't know, they'll call me. So.
And I was wondering that image there of the protocols, is that something can be put on the website? I mean,
It can, we're working, there's a agreement that I want to make sure completely signed. They verbally said yes. They sent me that last week. This is new. They changed that this year. I really like it. I like the flexibility of it. All the administrators have shared that with their staffs. The teachers have that. So everybody here at the school does, and there's actually a parent side of that I didn't want to give out yet until we had that signed. But there's a piece for parents to hand out that goes to each staff.
I think if we get a phone call, we can say, here's the definition, you go to the website, and it's I love the images and everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't put out more than what's there. That none of that would hurt us in our response, give them a heads up. We are in the error that's just occurred. They learned this summer, we are in the error that the kids that would do this now have been trained for the last 15 years. And they know what we're going to respond to. We've changed how we respond. But that doesn't mean that all ages are going to respond the same way. We're always moving forward, and we stop until we get done. So there's no barriers that we're not prepared to take down to get to where we need to be. And blessing the Lord bless, we never had this happen, and that's what we want. So we've been very blessed so far, and we hope to continue that as well. Yeah, but please, I encourage everybody to call me if you have any questions. If somebody calls you, it doesn't hurt to be able to call them back and say, hey, this is why they did what they did. Talk to the sheriff. They feel pretty good about it. Talk to the superintendent. Everybody feels good about our response. So,
I think every time that we have a perceived threat, that our parents get more anxious about what is really going on.
They do.
So I think any information that we can provide like this is very appropriate.
This is good. We get a little secretive when that stuff happens because we don't want everybody panicking at everything. So obviously, if nothing's going out on our end from the law enforcement, then y'all are different. Y'all got to take care of the kids and the parents on that. But once we deem something is not a risk, we're not going to put out any information, or maybe just a little bit. But if we have a true risk, just like we did a month ago with the hoax in Wilkes, I'll be glad to tell you, we got a bunch of phone calls on what we're doing in Ashe. We sent a bunch of people down there immediately, but then we sent a bunch of our detectives and everybody else that I did not send down there flooded the schools. So we had, plain cars in the schools, all schools, and everybody wondering what was going on. And that was it. There's no threat in Ashe, but we're gonna make sure our schools recover. Even if I send my patrol guys to go help another agency, we're not leaving our schools. And so I think we had 2 or 3 officers almost every schools. And I caught some wind after that too, some complaints about them playing cards. But that's where you call me and ask me, and I'm gonna say, hey, we doubled up on the schools, more than we've been there for the captain. So it ended up being a good thing and a good lesson nationwide for law enforcement.
Any other questions? All right.
Yeah, call me anytime.
I think we're continuing on with some AEDs and CPRs in the school.
So we have a couple of people that are going to share. I've asked Brian Hampton and Amy Walker. Jamie also contributed to this today.
Well, a lot of questions have been asked about athletic safety with the events last Monday night, the NFL game. I'm assuming y'all have the handout here. I just wanted to talk about what we do as a county to make sure that our coaches are prepared in case of an emergency like that. The North Carolina High School Athletic Association requires all coaches to take a fundamentals of coaching class one time, and then yearly a concussion in sports class, and that is good for 1 year. All volunteers must take a sudden cardiac arrest class. That is not a required class for paid coaches. The requirement for paid coaches is they are CPR and AED certified every 2 years. This is our own year, so this summer, right at the end of school, we work with Wicks Community College. They provide the classes for our coaches. Any new coaches that are coming on board, if we know at that time, we can get them there. They have a separate class that is a little more intensive than the refresher class that the other coaches will take. We do that every 2 years. Other safety actions we take, I know all football equipment is reconditioned every year. It's required by law to be every 2 years. I don't take that chance. I've actually coached a young man that can't walk due to a freak accident and a hit. So I learned my lesson real quick that we're going to make sure that we have the best equipment possible on all our student athletes. We have an MOU with Ashe Memorial Hospital, provide an athletic trainer at all our high school events. We are very fortunate to have Adam Elliott on our staff. Adam should have gone on med school. He's that good. He is, and it doesn't matter if it's one of our kids or an opponent's kid. I know a couple years ago at Allegheny, he jumped on a young man that was knocked out and took care of him. There's been an incident at North Surrey where a kid had a fractured vertebra and probably would not be walking today if Adam Elliott would not have stopped the other trainer from telling him to jump up. So we're fortunate that we have an athletic trainer in Adam Elliott that takes his job serious and he cares about the kids. We have an emergency action plan posted to every athletic venue. And each coach has to review that emergency action plan with me prior to their sports season. I'll have a meeting with our spring sport coaches in the next few weeks by the 1st of February to talk about the emergency action plan at those venues. Each student athlete must complete a permission to treat card before participation. That permission to treat card gives us permission if there's not a parent at an away game or even at a home game that we can get them the medical treatment they need if there's more needed than what Adam can give them or what our EMTs can give them there at the stadium or at the gym, wherever it may be. We do have 3 AEDs at the high school. There's one in the mailroom at the office. There's one in the concession stand in the commons area. And there's one in the train room. And one in the train room is portable. Adam has that with him at all athletic events. So we do have an AED on the sideline. One thing that we're very fortunate is our location in relation to our EMTs, and they can get to our school very quick if it's at a practice or something like that, if they're needed. Our school nurse, Nurse Robin goes around and makes sure the batteries are taken care of and checked regularly in the AED, in the Commons concession stand and in the mailroom. And Coach Elliott takes care of the AED in the training room. Ashe County Middle School, they're not required to take the same classes that the coaches at the high school. They're not under the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, and that MOU with DPI, they are under DPI. So they are not required to take the classes that the high school coaches have to take. It is recommended, but it's not a requirement.
However, we could require that.
Yes,
We can require, yes, we can require that. You see some of the classes there that are free to take on the NFHS Learn website, concussion sports, sudden cardiac arrest, heat illness prevention, the collapsed athlete, and sportsmanship courses are all offered free. We do have a couple of level 3 coaches. And to become a level 1 coach, you take the fundamentals of coaching of your specific sport, the concussion class, and first aid. It's a separate class other than the CPR AED course. It's general first aid. If you take those, you're a level 1 coach. All of our coaches in the building are level 1 coaches. We have some coaches out of the building that are not, but we do have some that are community coaches that are level 1. Most of our coaches are level 2, and we have a couple of level 3 coaches. And you basically go up in levels by the number of courses you've taken on the NFHS line. You want to talk about the heart of the hustle? Okay. It's our 8th year. I didn't know that. I thought it was more than that. But the Heart of the Husky Physicals, one thing that we started a couple of years back, I guess it wasn't the first year, but it was soon after we started requiring the EKG. And now all our student athletes 7 through 12 can sign up for a free Heart of the Husky Physical. It's the 3rd weekend in May every year, and Friday night and Saturday. And it is a screening by providers from our community. We also get our health science classes involved, but they also have an EKG that day, and that is a requirement a local requirement to participate in athletics. That is not a requirement by the High School Athletic Association. That started with Coach Payne his last few years as athletic director, and we've been fortunate to find a few things that we could fix so students could go on and participate in athletics and get treated for a problem that they didn't know prior to the EKG. We do have an orthopedic on site, and they do a baseline concussion test. And that baseline concussion test, the impact test, if a student athlete is suspected of having a concussion, they can go back in their return to learn and take the test, and they compare it to the baseline. And it's just an added part of the return to play a process that we have to go through if a student athlete has a concussion. What am I leaving out, Amy?
We do have a pediatric cardiologist on file
Yes.
and an echo technician. So now we no longer have the cost. Used to, we had to send our students on to have an echo, and it was a financial burden for them. And we have an echo technician on site who is requested by the cardiologist to perform the echo there.
About how many did we do last year? Do you know?
It was in the 400s.
That's total. Are you talking about echoes?
Echo.
Echoes,
The
I
echo.
think it's probably about, it's between 6 and 8 women.
I was gonna say, it was just under 10.
Yeah, it's about 6 to 8 echoes that.
That's a significant savings to parents, but I mean, just a peace of mind that their child is, okay, or, they caught something early.
But it's very alarming to a parent. Our nurses do a great job. They look at every screening form before that child leaves. And if there's anything flagged on there whatsoever, they usually call the parents right then and talk to them. So it's very alarming to that parent to get the call that says, hey, the cardiologist did see something on your child's EKG. We would like you to follow up. At this point, you know, we are able to determine right then, if there's follow-up, it's pretty major, because that pediatric cardiologist is able to read that echo and say, this is fine, it's good. You know, it's just a little abnormality showing on the EKG. There is, you know, one thing that we might look at going forward would to pursue a few more of the portable backpack AEDs that would, you know, Ashe County High School is a big campus. Ashe County Middle School is a big campus. Those would make them
sports going on at once.
Yes, multiple sports. That's a good point, going on at once. So we would like maybe to pursue some funding for those. Jamie and I did talk about today, maybe applying for another one of the safety grants who, justice grants, is that the one?
It's the state.
School safety grants, yeah. So if we, with your permission, we may look at pursuing that as well as a couple of other safety items with that grant money. I think there's still monies available. So
They're doing a second round. And actually, I will say, of course, our outstanding, and they had thought about the AED thing earlier in the year. This was already something topic of discussion. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago. This was a topic of discussion, but it's been timely that they were very on top of it. And looking at the backpack units has been something that they all desired for us to try to, and so we'll try to find it.
And we have a team at each school, not just coaches,
Correct.
who are trained to utilize the devices. So, you know, during the school day, in a PE class or, well, even just in general, you know, things can happen, but we do have somebody on each campus where we have this who can use it if needed. Hopefully we'll never need it.
I think we all saw last Monday night how important time is on an incident, and it would just take one. So we could pursue whatever we needed to pursue to get these extra devices in place and get our folks trained to use them. I know it was part of our pool training, part of our lifeguard training, that we had to learn to use these devices and how to do basic stuff. So I would like to see some kind of incentive to see if we can get our folks trained. It's a matter of seconds the other night, and that young man is going home. If that trainer had not been there, if Adam hadn't been there, we need to get more people trained so that we have an immediate response. If you're at the middle school and you're waiting on the rescue squad, it's too late, or Blue Ridge, it's too late, for somebody to respond other than our nurses or whatever. So we need to get more people.
Jamie, how many people do we have at each of our schools?
So on the CPR certification, and AED, it's, I mean, I want to say it's 8 to 10 people per building. Am I saying that right, Principal?
Yes.
And it's a lot of times in an elementary building, it'll be one for grade level, so that when you're on a field trip, that can, you know, there's always somebody on the playground. So I would say, and I don't know how many high school get trained because you have so many coaches, but it's a pretty good little chunk.
We also, like Dr. said, we do have a team there that has gone through the training.
Additional to the coaches.
Yes. And our nurses just schedule those.
That's good that we have those nurses.
We have one fall, one spring, and they're really good to keep up with who's expiring when to make sure they get back in.
So I guess the backpacks are more what we need now, that they can go field trips.
They would just be more portable. I think it would be something, you know, just for him to manage as far as having, you know, where they would be each day. And I'm sure the one would not need to be at the tennis courts, because if it's at the football field, that is a long ways to get there to get that AED. So I think it would make them much more portable. Plus, they're tagged, you know, as what they are. It's very easy to see that that's what they are. A student's not going to pick them up and think that's their book bag. They're going to understand. It's easy to push, throw it over your shoulder. The right colors, the blue and green. So it's easy to notice them, not leave them behind, that kind of thing. If you're in a gym, most likely you're gonna have AED.
I talked to the sheriff earlier today at another event, and I think a lot of the sheriff's department in their patrol cars, there's one in their patrol car that they have there. And of course, all their officers are trained with those.
We actually, I noticed all of the Blue Ridge electric vehicles
Have them.
have one inside their vehicle. It would maybe down the road, look at equipping our buses with.
Well, everything I've read on them, as far as you follow the instructions, and if you don't have this where it's supposed to be, it's not gonna work. So it's pretty self-explanatory to operate those.
There is some recurring cost to those. Yearly, we did break down, and you're looking at somewhere about $150 a year to maintain your units.
All of them are one.
That's each unit to keep them maintained. The batteries are good for, I think it's 4 years, and your pads expire every 2. And you have to have pediatric as well as adult. And one thing we haven't said is having an AED on the sideline for our students is one thing. But we have lots of parents and grandparents and spectators there. But it's a benefit for those folks as well, our community as a whole.
Well, I think all of us are in agreement that we can't scrimp on safety issues, that, if it's a safety issue, then it doesn't matter about $150 per unit, then we need to keep those up.
And school boards across the nation are having this, they're all having the same conversation, I'm sure. So the 3 to 6 months, it's going to be extended some. I'd like to see us discuss this further as a board.
I did want to point out one extra thing, and that is that I did some research on statistically how North Carolina ranks. And we actually rank 8 nationally in our safety, athletic safety protocols. So, that's fairly good nation. Florida is number 1 at 86, and I think we're sitting at 68. Feel like Ashe County would be much higher than that. We're probably pulling North Carolina up a little bit. So, but there's always room. And a lot of it was in policy and procedure. When I went back and looked at the things that North Carolina scored low on, it was in lack of policy and procedure for things. So those are simple things to correct.
Well, I had a number of calls from parents of athletes, like what's going to happen if my kid has a problem. So that's why we've asked for this discussion. It's reassuring. It's reassuring.
And I do encourage you to have to encourage parents to go through Heart of the Husky. And the main reason is because of a pediatric cardiologist. Many of our students aren't having, some of them do have an EKG at their doctor's office, but it's not getting read by a pediatric cardiologist. It's getting read by a medical doctor, which they're amazing and know what they're doing. But that is a benefit to a pediatric cardiologist. They are trained in hearts that are, more adolescent than adult hearts. So.
It's Heart of a Husky open up to middle-aged school athletes.
Yeah.
But it's not a requirement.
It is not a requirement to go to Heart of the Husky, but it is a requirement to have a EKG.
It's okay.
And all the physical therapy work.
Okay. Well, the easiest way to get it is free for Heart of a Husky.
May 19th and 20th.
May 19th and 20th. We got.
I'd like to thank these two for what they do. With that, Amy's amazing. She started Heart of the Husky, and there are many districts doing similar things, and it's because of her vision and passion for that. And I feel very passionately that her heart and vision we've saved children, and that's amazing.
And also Blue Ridge Energy, who's been a sponsor since it started as well. I know because I do the babysitting. Other people do the work. So.
And the folks at Memorial Hospital, they do a lot of work with that, and all the providers and in the community that volunteer to help us on those 2 days.
Please, when you go have your physical or you go see a doctor, please thank them, because without them, there's no way.
I remember games in the past, and Dr. Jones, Dean C. Jr. would get so frustrated he'd throw his hat, and that was the best part for me. What old Dr. Jones throw his hat off on the sideline there. So, any other questions?
Thank you
Thank
for
y'all so
pulling this
much.
together. Very short amount of time.
Again.
All right, you're good.
This is very abnormal. Now, I'm rarely up here this much. So I like to stay back there and we'll see, but.
Now we're
What
gonna see
I-
how we can call.
Huh?
Now we're gonna see how we can call you.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna mention safety one more time. And this is the probably the biggest reason I'm up here tonight is because our phone systems do not meet our safety requirements anymore that the legislators have put in place of Kerry's Law and Ray Bonds Act. And what that says is if Dustin Farmer is sitting at his desk and he calls 911, it flags exactly where he is. Same for Mr. Hampton, if he's down at the field house and he calls 911. These acts say that it has to flag exactly on campus where they are. Now, we have the old North Hill systems in most of our schools, and those do not have that capability. So what we're running into is we've got some phone systems that are completely dying on us. I'm scared to death when I see the outage map at Blue Ridge Electric and see that Ashe County Middle School is out of power, because I'm afraid that phone system's not gonna come back up.
There's nothing they can do if that happens.
Yeah, and that is the thing. Because of these laws, Skyline is not able to fix those phone systems to do a major repair. A minor repair they can do, but anything a major repair, they're not able to do by law. So I just gave y'all a ton of information in your assembly, lots and lots and lots. And what you will see there is a breakdown of phone system cost. You will see a couple of quotes from another vendor. And actually, I think there's 3 vendors in there. Tiber Creek is a vendor, Brooks Network was a vendor, and I have more IP Solutions, I believe it's a vendor, as well as Skyline. Most of these quotes, and I'll be able to answer, call me and I'll answer any of these questions. I'll try not to go over all of this tonight. But each of these, the Skyline quotes are broken down to per school. There is also a total quote. Those are at the, you'll see Ashe County, I think it's Ashe County Schools total, maybe. That tells you what it would cost to go ahead and replace the entire system. All schools with a new phone system. One of the biggest costs, of course, is the phones itself, because you have to have IP phones. So that's one of your largest costs. You also have brochures in there that explain the 3 different phones that we're quoting. One would be just a normal teacher phone that goes in the classroom. One would be a phone that goes to administrators, people who are at their desk. And then that last would be the receptionist phone, the large phone, the multi-center phone. There's a couple of other things on there that one is a piece of software that would allow teachers to put an app on their phone. So if they were off campus at something, they could still receive telephone calls that come to them. It also includes a voicemail option. The voicemail would automatically deliver to their email address. It would be housed on our server, through a virtual server at the Early Learning Center. So we would be hosting it. It would be a full hosted solution. If we do go with any of these, we would need to go ahead and buy all the software seats up front. You wouldn't necessarily have to put every system in at one time, but you would have to buy the baseline to do that. Let me see what I want to tell you. There is a possibility we could shave some off in labor. If our technicians are able to have the stations ready, just a plug and play, we could shave some off whichever quote we went to with labor. Long distance is unlimited. That's included in the Skyline proposal. And also included in the Skyline proposal is a Valcom paging card. So that would allow our paging system through the intercoms to still work with the new phone system. So I know that was a lot, and I even had Skyline drop some more brochures off to me today about the system. Now, one thing to keep in mind, we will not be able to get rid of our fire alarm lines, our elevator lines at the high school, or our panic lines. We'd still have to pay those. We would look, though, Amanda will like this, we may be looking at a little bit of a reduction monthly. I think it's between about $800 and $1,000 less that our phone bill would cost overall, system-wide, monthly, when we get all of the phone systems online. If we're only able to do a couple at a time, I highly recommend that we look at Ashe County Middle School and Mountain View. Those are the two phone systems that I'm most worried about, followed by Ashe County High School and Blue Ridge Elementary. I think Westwood, the central office, the early learning center, and the bus garage would be okay for a little while if we need to. It would be wonderful to go ahead and do a whole house move, but I know funds are tight and I know they're hard to come by. This would enable 4-digit dialing too. So if Dr. Cox wanted to dial Mr. Farmer, she'd be able to 4-digit dialing.
And not type phone.
Yes.
We've got our two locations. I can talk to one location sitting in West Jefferson and call Crump or Jefferson. And I'm not on the phone line, so I'm not tying up a dedicated phone line for somebody needing to call in. It's very nice. The voicemail to email, I love it.
Because you can get it anywhere. Yeah, that is nice.
On there.
That is two things that we do not have working right now. The voicemail at Ashe County Middle School is done. That controller card is gone. Voicemail at Ashe County High School has been pretty tough, hasn't it? It's been pretty tough, so.
Amy, I have a question about the middle school. Would any of this equipment be able to be moved, or we have to start over with our new middle?
That's a good question. So asking that all of our vendors that have quoted, most of them assure me that this equipment has a fairly long life. But I feel like we would be able to carry that equipment with us. It would be a matter of carrying the phones. That's pretty well, that's all we would be carrying is the phones with us.
There would be some operation with the folks that are planning the new equipment and the new building and to incorporate this kind of a system.
Most systems are IP now. Just about all of them are an IP solution. I don't expect us to have a terrible time with wiring. You know, we did all new wiring the last E-rate cycle in all of our buildings. So I feel like our wiring, we're in good shape there. We've got Cat 6, we've got, I think, adequate drops. The only thing that maybe, especially at the middle school, we run into, the phone may not be exactly where they would rather it be. But we're a little bit tied to power and to the Ethernet connections where they are. We would do our very best, but we probably would not pull new wire in that of the building. It would not, it'd be very costly.
House-wise, right?
So it would cost, you're telling us the total there is for everything, that's what everything would cost?
Plus your monthly. Now, one thing is, if we do, most of them do require a maintenance contract with them. So the maintenance contract runs at the one vendor we've been speaking of about $350 a month.
I'm just thinking Skyline.
Yeah.
But you said we would save money each month if we went to this system.
We will save money about $800 to $1,000 each month.
So that would pay.
Does that include that monthly service?
It does. It does include that. And each of these will tell you what it would cost per school. And actually, Skyline did drop off some more literature today that I will try to get you some copies of. They'd also be willing to come meet with you if you have any, more in-depth questions about the system. I did follow up with town of Sparta, I believe it was. They have that system in place, the ESI phones. Now it's a small, they're a small system, but they have not had no problems whatsoever. They like it. I can also follow up to see if there's another reference, they have a larger scale. I think Skyline's actually just starting, they don't have any of these in yet.
So this is gonna have to be an ask in the budget. You know, we're gonna have to really plan for $135,000. It's a big chunk all at once. But certainly something, and not an overnight. I mean, it's not saying, hey, let's do this today and move on, but it's coming up in short order. So, but it's something we want you to be able to go down through each of these, really consider, and then I do think we're behind the 8 ball in 2 of our schools. And I worry that if we have a power outage, we're just going to be handicapped there. And I think I'd rather be proactive than reactive on them.
And they did offer us a pay by month plan where we would not have to pay any service charges or anything like that. So that was very nice of them.
So anyway, but I think
they do understand we're kind of, like Dr. Cox said, we're a little bit under the 8 ball, and there is a possibility of some funding that Amanda and Jerry and we're talking about today. It would not cover, but it would help. So
We're looking at March planning budget as far as work session for the board.
yes.
So that wouldn't be till like June till it's approved.
Right, some of this we might be able to do before if some of those funding sources pan out. But we're not ready to say that right now.
but if I come, you don't see me in a panic, you're gonna know that it's dead, it's done. So we are pretty concerned about it. And it's something that Dr. Cox and I've been talking about for a while. And I'm really hoping that we wouldn't have to do it. Hoping that it would hold on to the new middle school because we did not want to invest that money, but it's not going to.
But ice storm knock them out.
Any kind of power outage is scary because I'm worried that controller card is going to go out. And when it goes out, we will not have a phone system down there. And that could be the same case at Mountain View.
So those
our systems are really aging. We've been extremely fortunate. We've had these old Nortel systems. We've had forever.
Those were good.
And they have served us so well and continue to serve us, you know.
But they can get the parts.
They
and
can get
pieces.
the parts. In fact, when I ordered a key from here, I had to order them from eBay, used ones.
So I think as early as next month, we can come back with a plan for a couple of the schools anyway. Whatever that's gonna look like, so that you guys can have a decision to make.
Even look overall.
But
I mean, even looking worst case scenario, all of them.
or
They
worst
don't-
case, all of them, but that's a heavy ask at this point in the game during the school year.
Does the maintenance building use the same system?
Are you talking about Mr. Baker?
Yeah, Mr. Baker's
Mr.
building,
Baker, yes.
but I didn't see, is that?
Well, that's
included in-
there in the interlock.
Okay.
It's part of here.
How many phones are in the central office?
I want to. Probably. CSS 25.
I don't have that many in my price.
25 in the
My
CSS.
price was not that.
Yeah, I think I told you we have 460, I believe it is, system wide. The system will hold 1,000. The ESI system will hold 1,000, but there's, that's the smallest solution that they carry.
We may have more phones at the new middle school than what we currently have due to the additional grade.
And we have room to grow.
Right. Okay, so more to come.
Yes, thank you.
Let's go from talking on the telephone to heating and cooling windows. Mr. Baker.
Good evening again. Expanding on trying to be a good steward of money. I shared with you all last month about the windows that were bid, and unfortunately, the only receivable bid we had was approximately, well, it was over $1.6 million for the 2 schools. So in trying to plan ahead and being proactive, considering the situation that we're currently in with Westwood Elementary School, with the help of Julie looking forward with Westwood and making sure that we were sitting pretty good with ESSER, we were thinking about the high school. And again, I use the word proactive. So both those children at the high school, they are air cooled. The life expectancy, if you look online, is approximately 15 to 20 years. They were installed in 1999. If we get these Westwood, if it's delivered when the current updated time frame is, it's 11 months. So if we started planning towards the high school now, based on current, you're probably still looking at 11 months to get the unit here.
Next year.
So I'm just reaching out to get your thoughts, to see what you think, if you find this a viable. I do think within range, you're looking at this. I worked with Matthew Ward again. The gentleman's been so gracious to help us through DPI with planning our other elementary schools based on current numbers. And again, this is just what he's seeing. Who knows? You know, today and tomorrow may look different. But he's thinking installed somewhere around 475,000 for both.
And that's just for the high school. Another thing to consider, you know, our windows are aging. Blue Ridge and Mountain View especially. I mean, the reason why we brought them to you in the first place is because they are, I mean, they're original to the school. David shared something to me today that made me pause with windows, you know, opening and closing and with Blue Ridge. But $1.6 million is just we just don't have that kind of money. You know, what we have remaining in ESSER, you know, we would really need to keep it under $1 million. So that extra $600,000 is, that's a lot of money to make up a difference. So, you know, we were trying to look at what our options were. You know, we could choose to do one of the schools, Blue Ridge or Mountain View, for the windows, but that's one school. And making the choice of that one school, both of them have that need. And then when you're thinking about the high school, how long it took Westwood. Westwoods were younger. Their chiller was younger than the two currently at the high school. And the high schools, you know, it's at the end of life. Westwood's chiller went out last year around spring break. It's still not here.
But that was bid in February, if I remember.
It was bid in
March.
February.
In February, we still don't have it.
We thought we'd have it in November, then we thought we'd have it anyway. It's still not here.
But as far as age of schools, that's what well, the high school was built before Westwood was.
Correct.
Correct.
So Westwood is the newest overall building that
It's
we have.
newest, correct.
And we lost it. Yeah.
And we lost it. So yeah, the chiller at the high school is older. And so it's still hanging on. So proactively, we consider the chillers at the high school to replace, or do you wait until it goes out like the other one did and hope that we just have mild weather? I mean, I don't know that that's the best, you know what, these are big chunks of money, and I think we'd rather be proactive than not. But when we're thinking about the age of our buildings, you know, eventually we're going to still have to address the windows at both of the elementary schools.
Well, David's windows are how old? 32 years, yeah.
But it's my understanding Blue Ridge's windows are in more shape than David's windows.
Well,
There are two different scenarios there. You've got some that are harder just mechanically. And then Blue Ridge, because of the nature of installing the air condition, the windows were not conducive to that, where Mountain Views will raise up and you can spread out. Blue Ridge doesn't do that. So there was panels of plexiglass put in there, and those, it was making the best out of a bad situation. So you have plexiglass outside of the air conditions in each one of those rooms.
Well, I can see where we might be concerned about the chiller, but at the same time, we have two schools that don't have central air conditioning at all. The chiller is still functioning. And that's why I asked that question about our fund balance. Could it absorb that kind of an impact if we needed to? I guess I'm the one that drives the car till it falls apart. I guess I'm concerned about buying something before we actually need it. The chiller at Westwood, that was unfortunate that we had to purchase that one as early, but we've not seen any sign that the chillers are failing. It's just their age, correct?
Well, we had done some work on the chillers, I mean,
Well,
but
some like-
they're currently working. And of course, we're not in chill mode at the moment, so this coming spring will tell us
All right.
everything. I think the piece in this just to consider is you're probably looking at 11 to 12 months. So once we determine there's a problem, unlike we could push the button, go, and we might have something turned around much quicker. This is not gonna be a quick process, so if we're looking at the rental piece of that, when we looked at Westwood, which was a much smaller unit to take care of that, you were looking at just under, yeah, it was just under $50,000 to take care of the 2.5 miles. So, you know, I don't know, I wish I knew the answer to this, where it's, I'm just trying to be proactive. Totally.
There's no good.
There's no good answer.
But my concern is, knowing their age and how old they are, to have a 11-month minimum wait supply chains, that is really problematic, because you're talking about a whole, possibly 2 seasons, you have nothing you're gonna have to deal with your students.
And we also have, it's a no-win situation. We have windows that
Yep.
could make an easy access, safety wise, an easier access than a regular window. We have that scenario at one of the schools. I'm very concerned about those windows at Blue Ridge because we didn't have a central air conditioning. We had to remove those, put those in because they put the windows in thinking there would be central air. And then it was pulled from the plant. So there was no central air, but the wrong windows. So we've got window issues, and not to dismiss the other windows at Mountain View at all. I would like to be able to replace them all. So
Is there a way that these Blue Ridge windows that create possible entry points we can't secure, could we look for funding through safety issues?
When we talk about entry points, I mean, there's plexiglass used all the time. You know, there's plexiglass in storm doors, there's plexiglass everywhere. These are secured within the panels. They're this yellowing, they look bad, they look, the appearance of them is not good. Of course, it's not as good as a double pane glass would be and something such as far as the weather. But there could be other exploration with that, with the money that could be in excess of the chillers that's there, maybe some of that money could be explored of having something made to fulfill that bottom panel that would fill part of that section and do away. And again, I'm just throwing something out there. I've been trying to think of different angles of this and try to fish with what money we have, but be a way to put something to replace the bottom panel glass with another glass that's truly glass. I won't say a company's name, but some companies have worked really well with me when we need to have something special done. So that could possibly be an option. But just like with Mr. Blackburn and Mountain View, their air windows are aging. They're getting more difficult for functionality.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
If you go ahead and you put the windows into Blue Ridge and Mountain View, either school has air conditioning.
That's correct.
So are you going to put those air conditioners back into the new windows?
That's correct.
So aren't you going to tear them up again?
The windows that were planned are designed for air conditioning to go back in, and there's actual metal flanges that go around the outside, allow for the most glass possible with the least obstruction of view. So that's waiting for those as designed. Yeah, it's just tough.
Have you ever talked, Jerry, you were at Beaver Creek, have you ever taught school and have you ever taught my classroom where there's no air conditioning, Bed Hopkins running down the hall, it's 95 degrees in my classroom? Now, I know some of you do that. You can't teach when it's 95 in classroom. I mean, the sweat dripped down my back.
Another consideration to the high school, and I'm not trying to sway one way or the other, the second story of the high school adds another element because heat rises.
So no, there's no air conditioning in the hall over there.
So that's.
we either freeze or you burn it up, one of the two.
I mean, you can't teach me.
So the overall scenarios here, you know, I think you remember it was about $1.6 million. It's the only viable quote that came back for the windows in the two schools. We do not have $1.6 million. So we were trying to find other scenarios that were best uses of the funds. The current funds we were trying to use were through the ESSER funds that expire in 2024. And that means we have to have those funds utilized by then. So if we are able to do the chillers or even one of the, I don't know how much the one would save us. We don't have those funds yet, or the quotes on that yet. I don't know if it'll be enough for one. It will be under under
Projection would be 625,000 at the low end bid came in with an alternate.
with one of them.
With one alternate, roughly 625.
That one chiller.
No,
No,
that's
sorry,
one,
that's
that's
one
one school for
One
windows.
school for that.
Both schools is over $1 million.
$1.6 million.
1.6 was the only usable bid that we got that.
So, which was still significant. One of the things that we could do using the lesser amount, one of the things that we can use these funds for is of course learning loss. That's the primary use of those funds. And we have new literacy materials that we're going to have to purchase more than likely through local funds that we have to, and it's a significant, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because we are looking at ELA and clear through all the grade spans. And with the new letters, we're waiting, of course, so that our teachers have the opportunity to make decisions based on what they know with this new training, so they can say, this is what I need for my classroom. So those decisions are coming up this year. And so we're going to have a funding source for it. So we could do both if we are smart about the money. I mean, both meaning one school plus the literacy, or the chillers plus the literacy. We cannot do all of it.
Is this something that we'll need to look at closely in March at a budgeting meeting, or do you need a decision on this
It
fast?
would be in their best interest of Matthew, who again, I referred to with the engineer. He thought he could have papers ready to go out for bid in February, which again, if you think 12 months timeline, and I don't know.
I guess what bothers me more than anything is we don't know about the chillers. We don't know.
Right.
I had no clue what was gonna happen.
Well, no, but I mean, to say that we're gonna spend this money and not know, we may get 5 more years out of the chillers. We don't know. So it's really hard for me and what are we gonna do? Just replace them? So whether the chillers are gone or not, we're gonna replace them? Are we gonna hold them? I mean, I come from a very conservative rural family that you don't throw stuff away. You use it till it's non-usable. And I understand about the 12 months, we're still trying to get that situated. But at the same time, how do we spend money for something that we don't need yet is the question.
So the other piece to it, if you do select a school for the windows, we can go through that process. We do have another piece of funding that potentially 500 and 300, we just use part of it for something. We could take chillers out of that, but then it's all gone because we've used some for the awnings. Anyway, we do have another potential funding source if it goes out within the expiration date that because it's repair and renovation, we could use for the chillers. I was just thinking about that.
There's money there. We just purchased, which came today, as part of a train unit. I think it's right at $2,000 to a piece of that. We had a air compression, which is part of the pneumatic system for the high school. We just had to replace a head of that, so it's $1,700. There's several things that are failing because of its age, so that money has come in handy there as well. So
Is there a timeline
That's
on
a
that money?
possibility.
I know we're not getting any more, but you don't have to have it spent by a certain time.
We're trying to, no, but it would be no. But we I'd like to share, we have a need and we know we have a need. I want to make sure that we're using it as we can, but I understand, I just don't, if something's going to take us a year to get in Westwood, we still do not have the units and the chillers that were, last year it was right before spring break or
Summer school.
right before spring break when it went out.
Right.
Yeah, and we still don't have it.
What's the word on that? Anything from them?
Well, the company just gets updated. The last I saw was April. That's when it's supposed to be here. So really you just have these companies that send out and say, here you go. So we're just commercially when they're submitting.
Everywhere.
So Jerry, what would be happening if we didn't, or Dr. Cox, if we didn't receive this ESSER money, our coolers would still be going out, our windows would still need to be replaced
County commissioners.
to county commissioners. So it seems like that we've used our ESSER funds in every opportunity that we have to compensate what we would have been asking our county commissioners for.
Yes.
And it's been wonderful that they have supported us on other things. The partnership is great there. But I think we may need to, as a board, relook at that learning loss. And if our teachers are implementing this letters, I want them to have whatever they need. And first and foremost, and I don't want anybody hot, 95 degrees. I get what you're saying.
I'm talking about that. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I've been there. I work in the middle school, so
Yeah, me too.
yeah, I get it. I just think that
We're gonna need both.
we're going to need
We're gonna need
both.
both. And I want to be I want to be great stewards, and I think we have been great stewards of this money and of course of our local money. I do think that we could, if we choose one, but how do you choose one? I mean, we've got 2 schools that need windows. So do we choose one now? Purchase the literacy materials that we do need, absolutely, and then take the other as an ask for the county commission as an investment into what's next. They're all considerations moving forward. It's about prioritizing right now because we do have a cliff coming with the ESSER money. We have to have it spent. And if it's going to take a year to get something in or longer, we're going to run out of time in the next couple of months to get these things in to be able to spend that money. And right now we have no extensions on that money. So we have some decisions we need to make right now to do those ESSER funds, and then we can utilize the other ones that have a little bit longer.
Your comments match the question I was going to ask. Jerry, you're more aware of all 3 of these situations, both schools and the chiller situation. What would your priorities be in where we spend the money?
Boy. That's why I brought it to the board, so you all can assist in making that.
Yes, you're more familiar with all of the details and more qualified to analyze this whole issue.
I'm right there with it.
I wish I could foresee the future and tell you what's gonna happen with that. I'm sure like you would. I can tell you that the Westwood situation was very difficult, and I know there was a lot of unhappy people. And that was tough to work through as we're continuing to work through that. I worry about the 2-story building, and I don't know. I mean, we may get 5 more years out of that, but if that's a 2-story building, heat rises. And just because we're a 2-pipe system now, when you switch it over, the upstairs is complaining because they're too hot. So I don't have a great answer for you. I'm just sharing all the information I know because the result of this will be a group decision that will follow us through for a while. So
Is there not a state law when the building gets so hot or classroom gets so hot, you have to let the students go home? I think the answer is yes, because I think that's why Pat did what she did.
Well, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do any centralized air conditions at either Blue Ridge or Mountain View, is my understanding, because of the design of the building.
Oh, no.
we were originally, that was their original plan to go that way, just what we got back, the amounts was astronomical. So that's what we did.
$500, like ridiculous.
It was astronomical.
It's way out.
So we have window units at those two schools, and it looks like we will continue to have window units at those two schools. So we need to make those windows secure. And if we can order the chillers with this other pot of money that we have, that may be the best. We know we can use the money, ESSER money for the windows and the literacy. We know we can do that. That need is now.
Already been approved.
Then if we can order the chillers with the other money, then we've done, but being both schools, I don't know if you put, in a hat or whatever. I was told that the windows at Blue Ridge might have been a little bit worse because of the way they had to install the air conditioning systems. And take them, and they used to take them in and out, which caused that stress on those windows.
Can that other pot of money cover both chillers? And when you ordered the chillers, do you have to have the money up front, half up front, installments? Because that could make a difference in terms of budgeting balance.
So the other have to for the others. This we pay once it's installed. The other pot of money is quickly dwindling. But it can cover the chillers. Again, the most urgent need or the pot of money that we need to spend first is the ESSER grant. And it expires at the end, September of 2024. And so we know that windows can be utilized out of the funds. And we know we need literacy materials for our students, which needs to come out of these. Well, it doesn't need to come, or we either have to pull them out of the funds or we have to go to our county commission. I mean, those are two options for that. And both of them are significant amounts of money.
Is there a way you all could pull for the board a document together that's going to show what funds and ESSER would apply for the ESSER learning loss? Then provide us, because I know we've got it in bits and pieces, and I've got notes everywhere going back and forth, but provide us the needs that we need with their associated cost estimates that we have, right, to know what needs to be spent by a certain time, and then we can have it all laid out for us, because we're meeting again the 30th. I don't know if we'll have enough time to talk about that in amongst everything else, but I mean, at least have something we can.
Well, and then we're meeting a week later.
Yeah, for a regular board meeting, so.
But yeah, we do have a document through ESSER that has that information.
But it includes.
Everything's budgeted at this point. That's the problem, because when we thought we were smart because we thought of inflation. So when we put those windows down, we booted it up 200,000 or 300,000, having no idea it would come back at 1.6. I think the equity issue, if I go back and say, okay, every time you change your mind, you have to submit that back and get it approved from DPI. And so if I say, now we've decided that one school is going to get windows and one's not, they're going to say, well, what about the air quality of the other? Because the whole argument was to improve air quality.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But then we're talking about up here switching it.
Well, yes, I mean, anything we do, if you approve it and you decide it, we still have to get DPI to approve it.
Right.
So if we say air quality with the chillers, I think they'll approve it because they did at Westwood. But I have to pitch it with the air quality for sure. The problem also, and Amanda and I would have to look at this, the 0.6, the 1.6, that can't dig into the 20% that we were required to spend on learning loss with ESSER 3. American Rescue Plan.
That's why, I mean, is there a way you can just spell that out for us so we can kind of, just all encompassing what we've budgeted, what we've approved, what we,
What other funds are available? I didn't realize we had those other funds.
We get lost in all the pots. That's the thing,
That was like we took it the last meeting, I'll share it then. Or with the commissioner.
Shared with.
But we still got that, some of that. told the board we were in the commission.
Right.
You know, that's why if there's something we could look at. It'd be easier to know. So, okay. Still some more, that's why it's updates discussion. Not action.
We just want to make sure you all are thinking about it. And so when we come back to that decision, it's going to come up really quick.
Yeah, so the more information we can get, it'd just be helpful just to have it laid out. For me, I'm speaking for me. I don't know about you all. I mean,
And I too, Jerry, would like to know what you foresee in the future that's gonna have to be replaced like within the next 5 years. Because having worked, you probably know, and don't tell us tonight, I don't want to die of shock.
I went back and looked at our 5-year needs survey, and those things are not on it.
That's
Neither of
correct.
those things are on our 5 years needs survey, because I wanted to see if that had been mentioned before, and we don't have any of those things on the needs survey from, when did we do that?
That was from 2020.
2020, yeah. So, I mean,
So Jerry and I talked recently about doing that survey with updated dollars. Is that those surveys were done, or excuse me, that needs survey was done based on 2018-19 dollars. Before any of the inflation has occurred. So a lot of what is there is not even an accurate picture of the true need of our district. And some of the life of things like chillers was not even addressed there at all. I think previously some of our buildings were looked at as being newer and in great shape. And when you really look at it from a life of the building, they're approaching time when some of these things are going to need replaced.
when I guess too, the ESSER funds you're working with are more geared towards specifics, air quality.
they're very
So that's why you
That's why that was why we.
couldn't replace ceiling tile because of air quality. You know.
I would have pointed that out.
And most of it, the 20% out of ESSER 3 has to be learning loss. And so we have to look at those proportions. And a lot of ours have gone directly to learning loss. In fact, we've been praised through DPI of how we've used these funds. So.
Any other questions about that right now?
We just want to keep that ahead of you.
yes, we want a crystal ball.
Be nice.
Crystal ball.
So let's talk a little bit about transportation under updates and discussions. I know we've got, I think, some more coming in February.
So, we were hoping to have a committee started in February. We need to get a transportation director hired before that can get started. However, transportation team has been working to update the route information in TIMS. Last Friday was a teacher work day. Typically, our classified staff do not work on those days. Or bus drivers, don't work on days that students are there, but we had our bus drivers come in and were paid to go through those routes individually. So they have updated a lot of their route information within TIMS. I think everyone knows from the last time we shared, the TIMS system is only as good as the information entered into it. And then of course, a lot of our rural routes aren't reflective of what reality is for us. But the bus drivers did work on Friday, January 6th to update their routes. Earl and Jerry have been working to fill in now as we have a hiring process for the new director of transportation. Jerry has been taking care of any accident and big issues. Earl has been tag teaming with them, but also working on some of the day-to-day with transportation. He's been also looking at, and well, actually both of them working together to update things like weather procedures and ensuring that our spotters are up to date and that we have information. Even Amy Walker, ensuring that we have up-to-date driver information and others within our call-out systems, so that in anticipation of any inclement weather, we will have the most updated there too. So once the new director is in place, we're going to have a team to review the busing routes for the county. We've already begun looking at driver schedules and looking at not just their hours, but where they're driving and making sure that we have the most efficient routes for our kids. I know you all know that some of our routes are very long. They've been long and some of them have gotten longer because of having to condense routes, having lack of drivers over the last couple of years. So all those things are in progress. Josh had asked to have the transportation there for information so that people know we haven't forgotten about it. It is something that we're continually working on. And I appreciate Jerry and Earl's leadership to not just fill in the gaps, but they've really been trying to make sure that we have some efficiencies that they're addressing while we can and we'll know about them. So,
who is our TIMS person?
So we currently have Donna, who has been our TIMS person, I guess, for years, and Lisa is in training for TIMS right now. Whomever is our new transportation director will also be trained, but you can only have one person in the TIMS system. So Lisa is the one who is currently being trained by Donna to be able to get in there and make those changes, and that makes sense. So she's the cost clerk as well currently, and she does a lot of the other paperwork.
Lisa does. Is that all that we contract with Donna to do is the TIMS?
No,
she's been able, like when Heather Resendez, when it was, and we had a gap at the high school, she was able to go in and fill in at the high school for us, stuff like that. But I think she's coming to a point where she may not want to do that. Yeah, she's got grandbabies. She wants to be retired.
I'd like us to have a TIMS rock star on
Yeah,
our staff. Yeah. I think Lisa's definitely the right, capable and the right person. Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions on transportation? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn unless something else comes before the board. Anybody have anything else? Motion to adjourn. All right, do I have a second? All right, all in favor?
Football game. We're changing the football game.
Right.
I'm meeting all three of your guys.
Yeah, well. I told my husband before I left, I said I might be home by 10 o'clock.
Absolutely, yes, very much so, yes. And when we get good people in place, we can roll and see great things happen.
Sir.
That's my expectation. I'm sorry.
I'm putting you on the spot. It's gonna be more social very quick.
I was trying
I was shocked today.
Yeah.
But they didn't show up. Oh my gosh. And you're good. You're talking about that weeks. To hire. Remember the days when. I know, all the time I was like, thank you. But I actually won. Thank you.
Hey, y'all got a wonderful night. Hey, go get some supper and head home.
Yes. But just by moving my cursor to get somewhere else, I accidentally came across that plus sign and it popped. And then I played with it, so I figured it out. I did. Okay, thank you. My mama would say, watch for deer. Yes, definitely.
No, it's not muted, it's on.
Okay.
It's still live. It was Randy. Randy just sent me a message, said, "Y'all know you're still live."